Hello and welcome to Talking Rasslin with Pondwater Dave. My name is Justin Davis, and of course, each week I'm joined by the First Lady of the Arn Anderson Fan Club, Miss Amy Vaughn. Thank you for my Christmas presents today, Amy.
You're welcome.
Appreciate that. And of course, we're joined by the man who counted Ric Flair's last match, Mr. Pondwater Dave Miller. What's up, everybody?
Hello, hello. Uh, wearing my Ray Fury shirt with Yeet on it while he can still while while he can still do it because as y'all heard, WWE is no longer rolling with Yeet because an independent wrestler has copyright on it. Cameron, I can't remember his name, but it's not Ray Fury.
Oh,
But wrestlers do these things, and this guy, he trademarked it, and I mean, Fury's been using it for at least 2 years that I know,
right,
maybe longer.
right.
And it's just a case where when they started saying "yeet" on WWE programming, when Cody and Jay started, cutting up in that press conference with "yeet," my heart sank because it doesn't matter how long you've done something on the indies, as soon as it makes it onto nationwide television, with one of the big promotions, then when you do it, everybody thinks that you stole it from them.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's unfortunate. But speaking of Ray Fury, we want to give him a shout out, friend of the show, Ray Fury, because tonight, December 5th, in the year of our Lord 2023, he made his debut on NWA Power.
Yeah, so
Hey.
excited for him.
That's
I plan on going to an NWA taping next time they're in Nashville. I want to go talk to my buddy Tim Storm.
Hey, speaking of pro wrestling, and sports entertainment, what do y'all think about this college football playoffs?
Well,
Amy. You're the
well,
football
oh
expert.
yeah, I've got a football expert. No, I have to listen to Andrew and Terry go back and forth about me and Allison Faye just listen and shake our heads. Yeah, whatever. Um, I don't know. I don't know enough. I hate that for I hate that for Florida State. But I don't think their conference, from my understanding, their conference maybe is not as strong as an SEC or big or
Not to
whatever.
hear them tell it. I've come to learn,
I
like
mean,
I've come to learn this week that the game of football was invented at Florida State.
really,
I mean, that's the way I'm hearing it.
is that why you're hearing it?
Oh
I
my God.
mean,
Hey, it's a bad, sad situation. You get four teams going in, and there's five of them that deserved it. There's actually
that's
six of
very
them that
true.
deserved it.
Yeah, that's very
Uh,
true.
Well, I mean, for me, other than the Bearcats, my beloved four-win Cincinnati Bearcats not being in it, I agree with it. I think that, Alabama beating Georgia, I mean, what better win can you have than beating the number one team in the country that last week?
that's what I'm thinking. I mean, in no universe should the SEC champion, no matter who it is, not be in the college football playoff. But I mean, I understand Florida's problem. I understand. I'm not kicking them while they're down per se. I'm going to have a lot of fun at their expense. But I mean, immediately they go after Alabama, who only beat the best team the best team in football. But why not go after Michigan? They got accused of cheating.
Yeah, that is
I mean,
Well,
they
true.
cheated. They cheated. Probably their coach was removed.
yeah.
Maybe, just maybe, that's the team you go after. But you're crowing and crowing and crowing, and they've crowed so much now that they've got to beat Georgia. They've got to beat Georgia in the Orange Bowl because if they don't,
True.
I mean, they weighed in injury. Injury is one of the things they look at, and the quarterback was injured.
Mhm.
But having said that, their opponents, their opponents that they played this season, when they went undefeated, their opponents' records combined were 67 and 76.
Right.
Alabama's Alabama's opponents were 97 and 58.
97. What are those numbers? What did 97,
97
58?
wins and 58
Okay.
losses.
Okay.
When you combine the records of everybody that Alabama played, 67 wins and 76 losses when you combine the
Oh,
records of everybody Florida State played.
why did they look at who's injured? I mean, like to decide who's going to go.
Best
Like,
player is their quarterback, and he's hurt. So
Best teams, and right at the moment, what they were before their quarterback got hurt isn't what they are now.
So they're
right.
saying
But
if you put them in, it's a wasted spot because they're in there without their best player and their quarterback.
But to tie it all back into Rasslin,
Mm.
you're matchmaking for marquee games. And last year they did the right thing and let TCU in, and they got their crap pushed in 65-7.
Yeah, and a couple years before that, they let my Bearcats in, and we got beat by Alabama pretty good too.
And every time they let Notre Dame in, they do the same thing. And so, it's just everybody.
Okay.
You can't please everybody. But that being
No.
said, we're gonna. The only loss that Alabama had was against Texas, and that'll be a hell of a national
And
championship.
Texas
game.
is one of the Final Four teams, so you can't say they had a bad. It's not a bad loss, and it was a good game.
Right.
And they lost to Oklahoma.
And by the way, before anyone starts, I hate Alabama, so for me to be taken up for them is pretty rare.
Right.
But I do think they should
that all
be in.
makes
I
sense.
think beating Georgia there at the end makes you a pretty strong case, and especially Alabama's looked. They are a different team in this second half compared to the Alabama that played in the first half that lost to Texas. I think they're playing a lot better in the second half than they did in the first. So I think that has, I think this Alabama team would have played back then against Texas. I think they win.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we'll see. But I mean,
I'm trying to audition for Terry's show.
Mike Bober's in the chat. Bless his heart, talking about 13-0 is 13-0, but don't count that kind. Well, where's all this energy for Liberty? Liberty went 13-0.
That's right. Liberty, 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 liberty.
But I'm here to tell you. I mean,
oh my gosh, y'all are so funny. I'm excited. I mean, I
Did
love
I tell
seeing.
you guys I got us a major sponsor? I forgot to tell you. Sorry about that.
No,
yay. But I've learned this week that the difference between a puppy dog at your back door and Florida State fan at your front door is if you let the dog in, he'll quit crying.
Lord.
I mean, I can't root for Florida State. I mean, Dollar Bill Dave is a Florida State fan, so I mean,
I actually texted him and apologized if I was being a little rough, because I mean, I know it hurts. It hurt me when they let TCU in.
Right. Yeah, but Dollar Bill Dave doesn't come across to me as someone you got to worry about his feelings.
Y'all are funny.
Well,
but it will be good
to
see.
I care. It's my gift.
Oh, hey Willie.
It's
but that'll be good to
hear
see.
That even with Jesus Christ playing quarterback, they aren't going to beat Alabama.
Yeah, that's true.
He's coming down for one more game. But the bowl game, this will be interesting to see how, like you said, some of this drama just carries on. Because, like you said, I think more people might now be interested in that Florida State, Georgia game. Like you said, they better show up. It'll be it's all fun. It's all fun, right? Everybody.
And Danny Cannell, bless his heart. He's so salty, and he's using that saltiness to try to be relevant again.
Who's that? I don't
know. He played for him back in the 90s.
Oh, okay. So
he's saying they ought to boycott and everything else. But yeah, you probably do want to boycott because it's the only way you're going to stay undefeated.
Oh Lord. No, I'm not going to say it. I want to just keep my mouth shut. I was going to say, I mean, you win some, you lose some.
Well, the funny thing is everybody acts like the answer is to open it up to an 8-team playoff or a 12-team playoff.
Well, next year they will.
Well, but then you just have people.
13's going to cry like a bitch next year.
We'll be in the same spot, just a later number.
Just
and everybody's going to be like, calm down because you're 13.
68. They have to play to even get to be a potential spot. I mean, it's crazy. Now, obviously, I know but anyway, it's definitely a fun time, right?
Hey,
I love the argument about how they had a Hail Mary at the end of the game to beat Auburn, and the lowly 6-6 Auburn team. We beat them by 1 point, and I'm like, y'all beat Boston College at 6-6 by 2 points.
Hey, my Bengals come up with a surprise victory at Tony Khan's Jaguars last night. How about that? It's a little unexpected. Jaguars are we're the number 1 seed going into that.
I was gonna say they're doing pretty good.
Yeah.
All right, Willie Buck doesn't want me hating on Florida State. So for Willie Buck, I'm gonna leave Florida State alone now.
Oh,
I don't
that's
think
awful
I don't
nice.
know. Bober, did the Steelers win this week? I didn't see that score, Bober. Let us know. Thank you, Terry Weaver, Willie Buck, Mike Bober, everyone over there in
I
the
think
chat.
they're calling for the coach's job. I don't think that it ended well for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
No.
Oh.
Schittsburg didn't have a good week this week, but it's all
Oh.
right.
Oh, is their quarterback hurt? Is that what Keith is?
Oh, like four
coach is
quarterbacks, and I think four
Oh,
quarterbacks in the
okay.
AFC are actually hurt going into the
Oh, okay.
playoffs.
At least Bober has his Penguins though.
Which
so
according to Danny Cannell means that they're not that they're not qualified to be in the playoffs without the quarterbacks.
Yeah, that's true.
Lord. So much. That's why I just stick to wrestling.
It's all sports entertainment. You can't
Well,
tell me
that's
that
definitely
it's not.
true. You are very correct about that.
I'm still waiting 30 years later for them to book the Cowboys to win again.
Well, all I know is sorry for missing last week's show, but since I listened to it, I'm in a pickleball league. I've played 3 games already.
Really?
No, but
Oh, darn. Out of all of us, I was baking. Yes, he has done that. I thought you didn't talk to your students about it. Like y'all want to do that at recess or anything, or gym?
my next door neighbor at work, she plays all the time. She's addicted to it, and I would play. I think it would be fun. There's actually tennis courts up the road at the park from my house here that they play on the weekends. I see people standing around waiting on a court all the time when I drive
Now
by.
you know.
It's where I go to the dog park. The dog park is there, so I see them all over there. I could easily go over and hit it.
Yes.
Well,
Owen could watch while you're doing that. I mean, he won't mind.
Owen and I are going to play doubles.
And if you're tuning in,
A little hat, little outfit, please do. Oh, I'm sorry, Dave.
I just want to let everybody know that we will have Cassidy Riley. Cassidy Riley will be our guest tonight. He'll be along shortly. Just as soon as he can get on, he'll be here. So we're not. Didn't want y'all to think we did a bait and switch.
And that's going to be pretty cool because I'm assuming he was like a stunt double. I mean, he did a lot of the moves, right? Did he play a person in the Iron Claw movie, or was he more?
He was tag team. He was a tag team partner, and he's also a trainer. He worked with Zak Efron, and he worked with MJF and Zak Efron.
Did he do any stunt double? Like in the ring? Do you know? Or
hey, I got an idea, Amy. I got an idea. Let's put a pin in it and ask him when he gets here. I'm feeling it tonight, y'all. I'm feeling it.
I can tell. I already say.
What's the famous T-shirt
that
you can get? That's right. Pucker up, a-hole.
That's right.
Pucker up, a-hole.
I have a feeling that might. Go ahead.
Jumpinthepond.com.
That may cross my lips, I think, if you keep feeling it, Pondwater.
Is there any wrestling news we want to discuss this week that went on? Anything interesting there? It's kind of a quiet week, really.
You listened to the show. Did we talk about CM Punk last week? Me and Amy don't remember.
I don't think we did. We talked about Survivor Series, but I really don't think we talked too much about it.
Yeah, we did. We said that he should have been. We should have put him off. He didn't need to step on Randy Orton's toes.
Yeah, I guess we kind of did.
Hey, I got some wrestling news that it's kind of exciting. I read that, and it's got my mind. I read it. Yeah, I do. I can read.
Prove it.
They said that they said Okada's contract is going to be up at the beginning of 2024.
Really?
Yeah, how cool! My personal preference would be to see Okada in the WWE.
Mm-hmm.
I know that Triple H has been a fan of his for a long time. They're making inroads into Japan with Kairi Sane and Shinsuke and
Kairi Sane and the Asuka and
Asuka and so Okada would be a natural, but I mean nothing would make me happier than Okada to go to the WWE and actually be the one to unseat Roman Reigns. Because I believe with my heart of hearts that Okada's the best wrestler in the world.
Well, since we're waiting on our guest, I just thought, why not have a great segment? Pull up the roster from New Japan, and we'll just have Pondwater Dave read Japanese names until our guest gets here. I think that would be a blast.
Well, how about instead we play, since this is Iron Claw month on Talking Wrestling with Pondwater Dave, why don't we play trivia?
I think that works.
Allison Faye's here. Terry Weaver's here. Coach Keith Morrison's here. Willie Buck's here. Mike Bober's here. Who else is here? Did I run anybody off? Dave Akeland's here.
You run anybody off?
I'm telling you, I have not seen this level of saltiness since you say something negative about AEW online.
You do have to be careful sometimes.
Man.
I don't say anything about AEW. I just ignore them and act like they're not there because I don't watch them. So.
I made a couple comments on some TikTok videos, and I am getting drugged.
There's AEW.
No, I'm talking about the Florida State people.
Oh.
It's not so much the Florida State people as is the people that hate Alabama.
Oh.
Oh, of course. Yes.
But I mean, I don't even say anything about Alabama. It's just that it's automatically Alabama. It's not Texas. It's not Washington.
Right.
Washington had the 75th hardest schedule. So, yeah, Washington and Michigan, Michigan at least beat Ohio State. But, truthfully, the Michigan and Washington are actually going to play somebody now. Mm-hmm. You saw what happened when Georgia finally played somebody.
Do you root for Texas?
No, hell no.
You know what we learned last week? Texas, and you don't root for Texas.
No, when I grew up in Texas, I rooted for SMU until they got the death penalty.
Oh, okay.
And I was always a fan of A&M over Texas. And then my daughter went to the University of Oklahoma, so then it was Boomer Sooner, and it's always been that though. But did you know we noticed last week I did this, and then stuff started happening on the screen.
Yes.
And then I did this.
Holy hell, look at this.
And then stuff started happening on the screen. And then I can go all Taylor Swift right here. But it doesn't just happen on StreamYard. This is an Apple innovation. It happens on FaceTime. It happens on Zoom. But we were talking, and I made a hand gesture, and balloons went up, and I was like, what?
That was funny.
Actual F just happened.
Well, the funny thing is, Allison Faye in the comment, Allison, I was getting ready to show what happens behind me when I do things, but I don't know if we should do that or not.
What he said? Who has the death penalty? What?
SMU.
SMU got the death penalty.
What is that? What do you mean?
Southern Methodist
means that the
University.
NCAA killed their football program.
What happened?
They're paying players just like everybody else.
Oh.
Before you were allowed.
Oh.
Yeah, back in the day.
Okay.
They had Eric Dickerson and Craig James in the backfield. They were outdrawing the Dallas Cowboys, and the Dallas Cowboys were still good in the early 80s.
Yeah.
Oh,
who was
they actually moved off of campus into Texas Stadium. Mustang Mania was running wild.
Who was their coach then, Dave?
Oh, man, I know this.
Uh-oh. Terry Weaver, if you don't come up with this in the chat right now, I'm kicking you off your football show.
He ended up going to Indianapolis to coach. Oh, Jesus. I'm such a fan of his.
The Christian guy?
SMU's head coach when they got the death penalty.
And then
I stumped him.
I know that the quarterback, the no-name quarterback was Lance McElhaney, and I cannot remember. The coach was
I feel like FFP was talking about this on one of their shows.
About T-Weave, throw it in your Google machine.
Someone's grandma bought a car, and then
T-Weave ought to know this because he's old like you, so he was probably growing up right in the middle of this.
His name is right on the tip of my tongue. Oh.
Well, throw it in your Google machine. Look it up. I don't even know how to look it up.
Efren, what's on the tip of your tongue? But anyways, are we ready? Are we ready for trivia? I just did football trivia with Dave, and I stumped him. So we'll see how you do here.
I know. Well, I kind of think this is all Von Erich trivia, so I really think Justin needs to be the only one. Dave, I don't think it should be fair for you to answer any of these questions.
It was Bobby Collins.
Bobby Collins. Okay. Where'd he
the
go?
win.
You said Indianapolis?
Now I've got him confused for somebody else.
Oh, okay. Allison, the old people outnumber. That's true. And I'm getting ready to hit the big 4-0, Allison. So I'm stepping into the old waters. I'm just dipping my toe in.
You're
All
about
right.
like a whole nother year.
All right. Let's play this trivia and y'all don't embarrass me.
Yes.
Oh, God. Here we
All
go.
right, Justin. Before becoming a pro wrestler, Fritz von Erich had a brief career as a defensive tackle in the National Football League. What team did Fritz play for? Did he play for the Dallas Texans, Chicago Cardinals, Green Bay Packers, or the Philadelphia Eagles?
I think it's the Green Bay Packers.
Anybody in the chat want to guess?
It's probably the Dallas Texans.
It is the Dallas Texans. But you want to hear something really interesting?
I'm waiting because I mean, actually, go ahead.
Well, okay. Oh, Lord. So, what's really interesting, just how you were talking about that, Fritz enrolled at SMU, Southern Methodist University.
Fritz is the reason they got the death penalty. They paid
Is
Fritz
that
a
what it
shit ton to
was?
come
I
in.
should
Yeah.
have known.
Back
I did
in the
not realize
50s.
that. That's hilarious. That
So
was
what
the start.
team? I'm going to take you a little further.
Yes.
This team, the Dallas Texans, which NFL franchise did they become?
The Kansas City Chiefs.
You're close.
Ooh.
You're not wrong.
Kansas City.
Baltimore.
No, but this version of the Dallas
Okay.
Texans became the Baltimore Colts.
Oh, okay. The other ones.
The other
right?
Dallas Texans, then the next coming of the Dallas Texans
Okay.
became the Kansas City Chiefs.
I was half right.
Oh my God.
Because I wouldn't have even answered the
Dave.
We lost him. Oh no, and Tepe's not there to fix him.
He's not to fix him. And he has Cassidy. No.
He had a whole Dallas Texan story to tell
He
right
was.
there.
So there were two. What the hell? Do you plant them in Dallas and then or Texas and they all go off? How
Well, I
two
guess.
Dallas Texan teams?
Yeah, and the Cowboys were there too. So there was the Dallas Cowboys and the Dallas Texans. I think one was in the AFL and one was in the NFL, which were two different football leagues at the time.
I got you. Look, Coach, Pondwater got the death penalty.
Yeah, unfortunately. I think Texas or Mississippi is the death penalty state.
Is that? Yeah, it's the South. You know, they light them up there.
They'll kill you twice if they can.
That's right. They kill you twice. So let me ask you about. Okay, so the death penalty, is that still in effect? Oh, he's back.
Yeah, I don't think it's been done since SMU, has it, Dave?
The only team that ever got it.
Really? Darn.
I think Kentucky basketball got hit with some hard stuff under Don Sutton in the late 80s, and they weren't allowed in the tournament or something for a little while. Eddie Sutton. Yeah, not Don Sutton. Don Sutton's a baseball player. Eddie Sutton. But anyways, they got a tough penalty, but they didn't get like completely kicked out, and they couldn't have basketball or anything like that.
I was going to say, we must have paid a hefty little to
Man,
make sure we didn't stay. Could you
power
imagine?
just flickered and I was gone.
I know. Coach G said you got the death penalty.
I'm just glad to see that y'all were still on the air.
Yeah, we were. We're just talking about your technology, and we were praying that you'd be able to work it out without Tepe being at the house.
That's right. Since you had Cassidy's, you were the communication with our guest.
Yeah, Amy wasn't worried about losing you; she just didn't want to lose Cassidy. That's what she said on the show, Dave.
Priorities.
That's right. I got questions. Remember, I got questions.
We got that pucker up asshole T-shirt available at jumpingpond.com.
We're in the Christmas spirit here at the Pondwater Dave Show.
Right. That's right.
And by that I mean when you go and fight with your family for a couple of days the whole time.
That is the movie, Fighting with My Family.
That's right.
What was the name of the wrestler that was billed as Fritz's brother, often appearing as his tag team partner? Was it Heinrich von Erich, Waldo von Erich, Rudolph von Erich, or Albert?
I think it was Waldo.
You are correct. It was Waldo. You found him.
All right, guys, we're gonna pivot here.
We're gonna
pivot here off of trivia real quick.
I was too hot. Dave had to shut me down.
You got 2 out of 2. Well, you got 1 out of 2.
Well, our guest has arrived.
No, definitely.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show. Pro wrestler, actor, Cassidy Riley.
What's up, guys?
Cassidy, how you doing? Thanks for joining us tonight.
I'm great. How are you guys?
Can't complain. We're having a great time.
Yes,
Good.
wonderful.
I missed it. Sorry I'm late.
That's okay. It's been eventful. We had a power surge, and
Oh, nice.
I just got
Yeah,
back up and running.
Because I'm so electric. When I show up, things just kind of start going haywire. It's
I
just
knew it was
natural for the
Cassidy's
course
fault.
for
I
me.
knew it.
We've just been calling it in the ring, so we'll just keep doing that.
Hey, man, that's the only way I know how to do it. On the fly, brother.
There we go. So, before we get started talking wrestling, though, let's get you to weigh in because I know that you're a huge LSU football fan, and they're in the Southeast Conference. And I just want to ask you one question:
Sure.
Is there a world that it would be right that the SEC champion, no matter who they are, shouldn't be in the college football playoff?
Yeah, and I think that should have happened this year. I'm a huge SEC fan. I believe by far it's probably the most dominant conference over the last decade for sure. But I feel like Florida State got robbed, man. When you have a team that goes undefeated and has 3 top 25 wins, 2 of them on the road, and just because they lose their starting quarterback, you punish the rest of the kids. I don't think that's right. I feel bad for that program. And like I said, I'm a huge, SEC football fan, but I feel like Florida State, I feel like they got robbed this year, man.
It might have something to do with he's a big LSU fan, but he might not like Alabama too much.
Yeah, well, no, usually I'm one of the guys who kind of pulls for the SEC no matter what. But I do, man. I just feel like those guys got a raw deal this year. And I feel horrible for all the other starting members of the team who have worked so hard all year. And then you have one key position go down. And not to mention, they've won their last 2 games without him. It may not have been blowouts. It may not have been, huge wins, but regardless of the fact, they have continued to win. They are top 5 program in the country. And how do you not put them in the championship game? I don't understand it. I think it's time to do away with the committee. I think they have to find another way. If it's expanding the playoffs, maybe that's the option. But I feel like the committee got it wrong this year for sure.
That's exactly what I said.
It was matchmaking 100%.
Well, and, I know Bama has a huge fan base, and then you start talking about generated revenue for the games that are going to be, and it all comes back down to the dollars. It's entertainment. That's the end of the discussion. College football is a major moneymaker for ESPN, all the networks that they're featured on. So it comes back down to what's going to generate the most revenue. And I feel like Alabama will do that more than Florida State. And for me personally, I feel like that's probably the reason the committee put them in.
That's everything I said too.
Well, I think that TCU losing as bad as they did last year.
I knew.
Everything. Down to the dollar. That's everything I said. Tell them, Pondwater, tell them how much you hate Florida State.
Didn't say that I hated Florida State.
I'm
not real crazy. I'm not real crazy about their fans the last few days, but
well, and I agree. Yeah, and I agree with that 100%. But it goes back to, man, I just feel bad for those kids who work so hard all year. And how are you going to tell me that winning doesn't matter? When you got a top program in the country that's undefeated, and you're not going to put them in, the championship. I don't understand it. I would take an undefeated team over a 1-loss team, especially it goes back to the fact that they had 3 top 25 wins, 2 of them on the road. That's huge. I mean, so yeah, I just feel like it's a travesty that they're not there. Do I think, and let me just preface it, let me just say this too. I think they get boat raced by just about every other team, by Florida, by Georgia. I'm sorry, by Alabama, by Georgia. I think they all beat Florida State. But it goes back. They had undefeated season, and they are one of the major conference championships. And I feel bad for those kids. And the coaching staff and the university, for everybody.
I do too. I agree with you there.
That's why I prefaced when we started talking about it earlier that it was 100% matchmaking.
Yeah.
I knew it was, and it was a result of TCU losing as bad because they did the right thing last year, and it did not make for good television. I mean, it was
So,
over
and
by
I think
halftime.
Florida State beats Washington. If you're going to have that matchup, I take Florida State over Washington.
Oh, I agree. I don't think. I mean, I would argue against Washington, and then maybe the team that got caught cheating. That might be the team not to put in.
I think
But
though
I mean,
when you line them
they
up,
beat Ohio State.
when you
Yeah.
line them up though, their strength of schedule, Alabama's strength of schedule is going to be a lot better than Florida State's, and Florida State's not going to have a better win than beating the number one team there at the end that Alabama did. So I mean, there are arguments to make on both ends of that. I think. I don't know that having one loss and not having any losses necessarily disqualifies you if you look at their schedule matched up against each other. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, yeah. Again, to me, it diminishes the conference. It diminishes Florida State's what, ACC? Is that right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So it just takes and defecates, for a politically correct term, all over that conference and everybody that's in there.
100%. It's a bad, sad situation for them. And I honestly did not expect Alabama to go in, and was really surprised when I saw it happen.
Yeah, I mean, Georgia's lost one game in the last 2 years. They've been number one for the last basically 2 years. So if you're going to take a one-loss team, I mean, it's I tell you what, if Georgia plays Alabama, these two teams, my opinion is 6 times out of 10, maybe 7, Georgia will win that ball game. I think Alabama played a great game, and they came out on top. But you can't deny the success that Kirby Smart's had at Georgia and the dominant program that they've become over the last couple of years.
Yes, sir. Well, all right, now we'll pivot. Hey, I was I met your trainer earlier this year before you retired, when Lolly came to visit.
Yeah.
And I got to meet your trainer, and it was funny because I got to meet him, and he was talking about that Cassidy told me that Lolly actually used to wrestle in Global.
That's right.
At the Sportatorium. And I shared a story with him at the time that I used to take my daughter. My daughter was only 3 years old. 3 years old, 4 years old. I'd take her to the matches. And her favorite wrestler was, and all I could remember was Crybaby Buxton.
Yeah, that's him.
And I had no idea that that's who that was when I shared the story with him. So I hope he knew that I was being really sincere when I was just sharing a memory, because that part of my going to the Sportatorium back in the day was because it was something I was sharing with my baby girl.
Right.
And she didn't know anybody from anybody, but the Crybaby character, being as flamboyant as it was, Crybaby Francis Buxton. That's who she remembered. But I know I walked away from Lolly that night thinking, man, I hope he didn't think I was just blowing smoke at him.
No, I'm sure he didn't. Hey, Lolly's a great dude, man, and I owe him the world. If it wasn't for he changed my life. I mean, you can't say it any simpler than that. Then he changed my life. He opened the keys to the kingdom of professional wrestling for me, and allowed me to kind of be accepted by that group of guys, by that family and that community. And if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be sitting here on this podcast with you guys today. I wouldn't have just finished doing the movie. So I appreciate him, and I'm grateful, so grateful. And I tell him all the time how much I love him and how much I appreciate him. But every chance I get, I'll say it. I'm grateful for him. I appreciate him for taking a kid in and showing me the ropes and just opening the doors for me that allowed me to expand my life and just gave me the life that I'm able to live today.
Cool. So how exactly did it all come about? Did you want to be a wrestler, or did you kind of stumble upon it?
Yeah, loved it. From the time I found it, my cousin had some Pro Wrestling Illustrated magazines. He was a little bit older than I was. I was probably 6, 7, 8 years old at the time. And I've told this story 1,000 times before, but I opened up a Pro Wrestling Illustrated, and there was a picture of Abdullah the Butcher, and he's sticking a fork in somebody's head, and he's like just covered in blood. The guy's covered in blood. And I thought, oh my God, this is the greatest thing that I've ever saw. And so Mid-South Wrestling was our local promotion. Mid-South came on Saturday nights. We stayed up that night, and I watched wrestling on TV for the first time, and I was immediately hooked from that moment on.
And then when did you start training?
I turned pro when I was 17.
You start.
Yep, started training when I was 17.
Uh-huh.
And I'd read that you got some training from Terry Taylor and Tommy Rogers.
So what it was, there's to give you the full backstory. A guy named Freddie Grapp, who was a local guy from here in Louisiana, I actually met him first. He didn't have a ring at the time, but could see how serious I was about wanting to train. So he showed me what, limited bit of what he could without a ring, but he would let me come over to his house and we would watch tapes and just let me ask him a ton of questions. And he probably was tired of me bothering him for so long, to be honest with you. It's like, let's just bring this kid over and just entertain him for a little while. Maybe he'll go away. But I didn't. And so I kind of networked my way from meeting Freddie. He put in some calls to a few people for me who put me in touch with some people from Mississippi, and Lolly ended up being one of those people. And so that's how I ended up meeting Lolly. They were actually running Southern Championship Wrestling at the time. They were doing TV in Louisiana and Mississippi. And so I would drive to Mississippi like 3 hours, three and a half hours each way. And we had a ring set up in an old dusty barn. It was dirt floors, and we'd get in there, and it was hot as hell in the summer. And we'd just, get after it. And it was probably some of the greatest times of my life in that old dusty barn of the fairgrounds in Kosciuszko, Mississippi.
That's awesome. So that was NWA Mississippi, but you also got to work for Music City Wrestling.
Yeah, and so to go back to your question about Terry and Tommy, I'm sorry I kind of veered off course.
That's okay.
So Terry and Tommy were coming in and doing shots for Deep South Wrestling, which Lolly was promoting, and they actually came to Monroe and were at the Civic Center. I was bartending at place here in town. They came down, and so we got to talking, fed them some drinks all night, and then like told them, I was wanting to be a wrestler. And before they left, they was like, you really serious about it? And I'm like, yeah, I'm serious. So they said, why don't you come down to the arena tomorrow mid-afternoon, and gave me a time and said, we'll work you out and see what you got. And so I did. Showed up, me, two other guys, and I was the smallest one of the bunch, and probably had the most successful career, not to diminish those guys in any way, but I probably had the most successful career out of the three of us. But it was that grit and determination, and I was just determined no matter what, I wasn't going to stop. I knew that's what I wanted to do, and no matter how it came about, that I was going to give my best and do everything I could to be successful at it.
Yeah, I don't know if some of our listeners may not know, Tommy Rogers was one half of the Fantastics with Bobby Fulton. Yeah. And Tommy Rogers was really not what you would consider a large wrestler.
So that was one reason kind of Tommy and I paired up and started doing some stuff, is because we were the same size. And like I said, I was the smaller of the three guys who were working out that day. And I think it probably was to my benefit to be able to be in there with Tommy, because he was probably the most seasoned of the guys in there. And he, kind of took a liking to me and said some nice things to me to kind of open some doors where they said, okay, this kid seems to be really serious and he seems to have some talent. Let's take him and see if we can groom him and see what we can do. And, and the plan was to eventually, we started a company called Southern Championship Wrestling that was doing really great. And I mean, just got to work with some extremely good talent. And that was Lolly's company. We were doing TV again in Mississippi and Arkansas and Louisiana. And, you have guys like Dr. Death, Steve Williams coming in, Hector and Chavo Guerrero, Terry Taylor. It just the amount of guys that I was able to learn from in such a short amount of time. And then guys like Kenny Massey, who was Mr. Nasty. He was out of Vicksburg, and Kenny never was a huge household name. He worked in Mid-South as the Red Devil under a hood, but Kenny was so good in the ring, and he was able to take a young guy like me and just was a blessing for my career and my in-ring ability, being able to learn from guys like that.
That's great. I was going to say, it sounds, just listening to you, like you said, it was grit and determination. You've been on national TV. You've been obviously in the Iron Claw movie, but that you've also done other acting. It's just kind of, it seems like when you put your mind to something, you definitely have accomplished it.
Well, thank you.
Just looking at the things you have, done, and you've retired, right, from
Yeah.
wrestling. You know,
Yeah,
um,
yeah. So I appreciate it. Thank you very much. Those are very kind words. I like to think so. I don't know, maybe if it's grit determination, or maybe it's just I'm too stubborn to quit, uh, or too dumb. I'm not sure.
six,
But
one
yeah,
half a dozen.
yeah. So regardless of what it is, I've been very blessed and had a successful career in wrestling for 29 years, and now I've transitioned into acting, and it seems to be going pretty well so far too. And I'm very happy with the course that's taken. I'm actually working on my second feature film right now.
I seen. Well, I mean, it has to be about the same, isn't it? Like going from professional wrestling, that entertainment, to going, probably you're probably more prepared because they can cut. You can't. When you're in the
Yeah.
ring, you got to go with it. So has that really have people been really impressed when you've gone for auditions and stuff about just how quickly you can pick up things because of your wrestling?
A lot of it transcends. A lot of it is very similar, and then there are a lot of aspects that are very different.
Uh-huh.
Uh, I have been fortunate enough to be in the entertainment industry for almost 30 years now. It was 29 years and when I retired, so it's getting close to 30 years now. So a lot of it did transcend and probably gave me a little bit of a help. But then there's things that it's just the different aspects of it. Like for me personally, I had to just kind of dial it back a little bit because when I was speaking on camera, I was so used to doing promos and just being over the
Right.
top and boisterous. So I had to, and I'm still learning, to rein that back in a little bit, be more conversational, more not as, as big of presence. And so, but I think it definitely helped me. It gave me the confidence where I wasn't, definitely not camera shy. I've been in front of a camera for most of my adult life. And I think that has helped a lot. I have a fantastic acting coach, Garrett Rudolph, out of Shreveport. He is tremendous, and he has been such a blessing to me and kind of helped steer and mold me in my young acting career so far.
Did you find acting? Do you sometimes does it test your patience because you're accustomed? I mean, in wrestling, everything's one take. I mean, very seldom ever is it two take. Everything's on the fly. You can put together a vignette and it's just done. But with acting, you may film hours just to get minutes.
Yeah, well, that's very true. I was really worried, and if you kind of want to go into all of it, dealing with Iron Claw and everything, I'll kind of just do a little backstory. I knew that I was getting ready to retire from in the ring. This was probably September, October of last year. I knew it was getting I was getting personally ready. I feel like I'd kind of done everything that I was able to do in the wrestling industry. And I didn't want to be one of those guys that was hanging around longer than I really needed to be and was taking up space in a locker room and, taking up a spot for some of the younger guys that were coming up. So I knew I was kind of getting ready to transition out of the ring. We had already had a retirement plan tentatively, but I really wasn't settled in my heart that it was time to do that. And then I got the call to come do the Iron Claw. And from the time I walked on that set, it just felt so right. And just like, it felt like it did for me when I was young and started wrestling and would get booked on some of the bigger shows. Just that excitement, that joy, it challenged me creatively to where I kind of feel like I'd gotten stifled some with my creativity in wrestling because, again, I felt like I'd done everything over the past 29 years. A lot of times, you recycle stuff, but I didn't want to be that guy just doing the same old spots and the same old thing over and over, kind of playing his greatest hits, so to speak. And I really felt like that was kind of where I was getting at towards the end of my wrestling career. But just that creativity that it sparked in me being on set and the challenge that it's presented to me, learning, the different techniques and how to act in television and film, it kind of filled that void, I guess you could say, of not being in the ring and wrestling. And once I found that there was other ways to fill that void, then I was very content with stepping away from the in-ring stuff. And it's made the transition much more, seamless had I not had that. Because had I not had that, I think I would have probably gotten bored. And I miss wrestling. I'm not saying I don't miss it. I miss being with the guys. I miss the towns. I miss everything about it. But this fills me creatively, to where I don't have to keep taking the bumps. I don't have to keep, 30 years of body slams and suplexes takes its toll on your body. And, CTE is real. Concussion syndrome is real. And I didn't want to be one of those guys who was just beat up and broke down and not have anything else to show for it, and just kept kind of chasing that dragon's tail and being in the ring. So I feel like I was really blessed, and I feel like, I'm a spiritual guy. I feel like God put that film in my life just at the right time to show me, hey, there's other things you can do out here besides wrestling that you're going to enjoy just as much. And I'm very thankful for that.
That's perfect, And so, if I can, I want to know, how did all this transpire? I mean, who called you? How'd you get the call and to be in the movie?
It's really crazy. I was actually sitting on my couch one day and my phone rang, and it was Luke Hawks, who's a very, very dear friend of mine. And Luke's one of those guys, we always stay in touch. We text a lot. We message on social media back and forth. But if he calls, I pick up. And if I call, he picks up. We just have that relationship. Mm-hmm. So I'm sitting on my couch and I look down, I see, I look at my phone, it says Luke. And I picked up the phone. I was like, hey, man, what's going on? We catch up briefly. He's like, hey, we're actually filming a movie down in Baton Rouge. And I thought about you. Would you be interested in wanting to come down and do it? And I was like, man, yeah, absolutely. I would love to. So Chavo Guerrero was actually doing some of the wrestling coordinated for it as well. Him and he had talked to Chavo. He was like, hey, I talked to Cassidy. Cassidy's and Chavo was like, absolutely. Let's bring him down, because they needed somebody that could help take care of the actors and they knew would protect them without hurting them, because they have this multi-million-dollar film that they're shooting. And the last thing you need to do is go in and take your lead star and break a leg, break an arm, something that's going to post production any amount of time. And they knew me well enough. They knew my abilities in the ring where they could trust me to come in and make sure that everybody was safe. And I feel like that's why I got offered the part. And Luke and I have such a significant history. Like when I was running shows and booking shows, I would always bring in Luke, his son PJ, when he was first getting started. I would book him as a referee. And so we've always had that brotherhood and that kind of bond. And, it's like when you're one of the boys, you look out for the boys. And he, I was able to kind of take care of him and give him some bookings when him and Matt Hardy were having a feud. And it kind of put him on the map. I was booking, I booked that match and was trying to help get him exposure as well. And he always, I know he always appreciated that. So it just goes back to, he returned the favor for me. And I told him this too. I was like, dude, you changed my life. Because from that moment on, I'm SAG eligible after I did that film. I didn't want to waste that opportunity. So I thought, if I want to be given this opportunity, then I want to make the best out of it. I want to put my best foot forward. I want to learn. I want to do it to the best of my ability. And so that's kind of exactly what I've done. I went and found an acting coach, got very serious about trying to learn the craft, just like I did. And I thought to myself when it first went down, I was like, how would you, if this was professional wrestling, how would this work? And I was like, well, the first thing is you're not going to bring somebody in that's not trained and don't know what they're doing. So you have to go get trained. You have to find somebody that's credible and knows what they're doing, and you have to go learn from them. And so that's kind of how I approached it and just took it from there. And so far it's been working out, pretty good for me. I feel like it's working out pretty good so far. I hate to, I don't mean that to sound braggadocious or any way. I feel like I've had some good opportunities. And like I said, in less than a year, I'm now working on my second feature film. So it's not too bad for a kid from Western Louisiana, I don't think.
The movie's getting great reviews already.
Fantastic reviews, man. They're talking about even possibly Oscar nominations and everything. And I'm really excited for everybody to see it. I have a very small part. It's not a huge part. But for me, And one thing that was so special about it for me, and one reason I promoted this movie so hard, even though, my parts, my role in it is not huge, is because of the story of the Von Erichs. And I grew up wrestling, like very early in my career, I was able to wrestle at the Dallas Sportatorium. And I remember walking into that dressing room for the first time, and there's like an 11x17 picture on the wall of the dressing room in the Sportatorium of Kerry Von Erich. And when you walk in that dressing room, you immediately can just feel the presence of the legacy that they had given off to that place. So for me, it was just as much about telling that story. And it was so surreal for me having wrestled there early in my career. And then that day when I walked on set and we walk into set and it's a replica of the Sportatorium, I just became like very overcame with emotion. It was almost like a full circle for my career because I knew I was getting ready to retire. And I had started out my early moments of my career in Dallas. And just how identical it looked, it just took me a second. I had to just soak it all in for a moment, except for, this time, the grabbings of it all really set in. And I really appreciated it probably a lot more than I did the first go around when I was actually in the Sportatorium because I was so young. And so that was one thing that was just such a cool moment for me in being in this film.
James Beard told us the same
James
thing.
Beard said the exact same thing about walking in and how they had recreated it.
It was incredible.
When I saw the trailer, and that scene where the Von Erichs walked to the ring to crawl up into the ring, I'm getting chills. I'm getting chills right now describing it because the Sportatorium. I mean, that's my wrestling. That's it. That's my favorite place to ever watch a wrestling event.
Over my entire career, I can tell you that's probably one of my favorite venues to ever work. And I caught it late. I didn't catch it when it was like super hot back in the world class days. We were still drawing decent people, but it wasn't slam packed full. But just the nuance and the ambiance of that building and the way it was built to where the ring's down in the middle and everything is built up like a gladiator coliseum around it. And you perform when you walk to the ring, you walk down these, down the stairs from the dressing room and into the ring. And when you're standing in that ring, it's like everybody is up and around you. And that's the only way I know how to describe it is like a gladiator arena. So, so cool. And it was just an old tin building on Industrial Avenue, hot as hell in the summer, cold as hell in the winter. But man, when that place got lit up and those fans got into it, it was so, so special.
And the fans did. They did.
I
tell everybody that I sat with Section D, Row 5, which would have been up against the wall where the American flag was on the wall.
Okay.
And I learned early that was the safest place for me to be because, for one, I could stand up on my seat. Nobody was behind me and I could see. But also they were the Freebirds and the PYT Express and Gino Hernandez could get the heat out of control and they start throwing beers and drinks. And if there was nobody behind me, I couldn't get hit with it.
Yeah, that's right. You were smart. Very smart.
Figured it out quick. First time you go home beer soaked and have to explain to your parents that you weren't out drinking.
I swear I wasn't drinking. I swear.
I went to the wrestling show. I promise.
I was just at the wrestling show.
And the worst part, in a bad part of town, still, I mean, it's just.
Yeah, no, it was not in a very good part of town at all. It was not. But man, I'll never forget one of the first, probably the second, maybe third time I wrestled in that building and just pulling up and my name was on the marquee outside. And dude, it's such a special feeling. I mean, that was probably the first time in my career I felt like, all right, I'm starting to kind of make some headways now. I'm starting to kind of make a little bit of a name for myself. And again, it goes back to James Beard. You talk about James. I love James Beard. James Beard was very instrumental in bringing me over to Dallas to the Sportatorium in my early wrestling career. And I will always appreciate him for doing that for me, for giving me that opportunity. And he's just such a great guy. I can't say enough good things about him. I love James.
When we had him on here, he was probably one of the most down-to-earth, genuine people we've had
just
on
the most genuine guy you could ever ask to be around.
I know, and he wrote a book. And so I don't know about Justin.
From the first time I met him until today, he's always been the same James, just a great human being.
I
He
always
sh-
get excited when I know he's going to be on the same show I'm on.
Yeah, he's just a great guy, man, and
he
fantastic in the ring. That doesn't even go to
Mhm.
start talking about all his accomplishments and just what a great referee he was. And he could call spots for you. If you were a young wrestler and you got in there and you were lost, James was good enough. He could call spots, and a lot of the guys trusted him enough to let him call spots during their match. That's how much he was respected, throughout the community.
He showed us a picture when he was in Japan, and he looked like a rock star. Like he
Yeah,
looked like he stepped out of Van Halen,
I
and
believe it.
I know he is a musician. That's really his first love. But I just think, I mean, he was like sitting in there between, I mean, it was like Anvil and I mean Randy sat there. I don't even know
Yeah.
who was
So
all it. It
James
just,
was the guy who booked a lot of the American talents for Japan for a long time. And
Yeah,
you
he
don't
showed
get
us
that
that too.
job if you're not well respected, especially in Japan.
And he
Right.
literally wrote their wrestling like the thesaurus, so they could
Right.
understand English words. So yeah, he wrote like, I don't know if he wrote it. Yeah, he wrote it for American people of what the Japanese would say for English words, right?
I
I
mean,
think.
it's got to be a blessing to be
I know that.
around
I didn't know
somebody
that.
that talented
That doesn't
early in your
surprise me
career.
one bit, though. I didn't know that, but that doesn't surprise me at all.
Yeah, he
Well,
talked about it when he was on here
yeah.
with us, that he wrote the book over there.
Well, Tim Storm told us to ask him about it. It's not
Yeah.
something that he doesn't normally brag about it.
No.
He kind of was embarrassed that we asked him about it.
Storm's a great guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've had great guests on. And that was one of the things. What was I going to say about James now? Oh, I lost my train of thought.
Well, let me ask you.
Getting old.
Yeah, I'm right up there. I mean, I'm
What
not
if
as
you've
old
been-
as Pondwater, but
You've seen the movie. You've seen the finished product now, haven't you?
No,
Oh, really?
They did a smaller premiere in Dallas because the strike was still going on. I wasn't able to attend that. Thought I was going to be able to attend an advanced screening on the 13th. I'm actually going to be filming again, working on the new movie that I'm doing now. I'm going to be shooting on that date, so I'm going to see it when everybody else sees it when it releases in the theaters. And I'm kind of excited about that too, and a little bit nervous. So I'm not about the movie, but because I just hope people aren't disappointed because how heavy I have promoted this film over the last year, thinking that my role is going to be something bigger that it's not. And a lot of that's probably just my own self-confidence and worrying, because I feel like I have, we'll see how the final product comes out. I feel like I'll have a decent amount of screen time, a couple of minutes for sure, but it's a key pivotal moment in the story without giving too much away. And I was really lucky. I got to do scenes with, just give you a little scoop here. I did scenes actually with Zak Efron and MJF. So I'm excited about that. And that's one reason I feel like hopefully, our part won't hit much of the edit room floor because the stuff that, MJF, and I know his role was, kind of limited as well. So I feel confident about it for that reason.
And do you think if Pondwater was in a sliver of a movie like that, and he with Zak Efron and MJF, do you not think he'd be screaming it from the rafters? So do not feel bad at all. You should be promoting that. I mean, do you think any three of us have been in a movie? No,
Well,
and we would. Justin has, but we don't talk about that movie.
It goes back to because I believe in promoting stuff that you're attached to. I've always done it with wrestling. If it's shows that I'm on, I'm going to push it. If I'm involved and you're paying me to be involved in this project, I'm going to give you everything I have. And that means every ounce of promotions, every ounce of my acting ability or wrestling ability, whatever it may be. And that's just how I was kind of brought up in the entertainment business.
Are you excited to sit in a theater with people who don't know that, how much involved you were, and just listen to them and just, are they oohing when they're supposed to? Are they getting, are they getting all this?
He's hoping they don't boo during his 1 minute or whatever.
Hey, they reacted, right? That's what it's, as long as they're reacting, right? Doesn't matter. So are you excited
what I'm most
about
excited
that?
about? I'm most excited about getting to watch it with my daughters in the theaters. So that's probably what But I'm more excited about that part than anything else.
Are they excited to see it?
I don't know. You'll have to ask them. Girls, are y'all excited?
Very.
There you go.
Your daughters are cutie pies, just so you know. I do.
Well,
see
at least we know
on
a few
Facebook.
people will be popping in the
That's
movie
right.
theater.
Oh, Dad's got a couple of fans in the theater, no matter what.
That's right. Hopefully everything goes well. I'd hate for them to like start roughing up some people in the theater because they didn't clap when they were supposed to for Dad.
You got to watch them. You never know. They're a little bit suspicious sometimes. You got to keep an eye on those two.
I feel like I'm going to have to watch it twice. For once, because I'll pop for everybody that I know that's in the movie.
Yeah.
And then I'll have to pay close attention to the movie. And I was a little leery when I heard they were making this movie because I grew up through it, was there through all the tragedy. And so, I mean, I know the story, but I like the reviews that I'm hearing. I like that it's more about Kevin's triumph story.
Right.
So I'm really eager to see it told that way. I'm also eager that it's really not an eye roll, just another wrestling movie like Grunt,
right?
Or all the other tongue-in-cheek wrestling movies. That it's actually being taken very seriously.
And I know a lot of people were kind of hard on the casting a little bit, but once you see it, it just works. I mean, and these guys, Jeremy Allen White, Zak Efron, Lily James, they're all probably some of the best in the profession. And that was another thing that was really cool for me, was just getting to watch people at the upper echelon, for me getting to watch them work doing what they do. And that was like just really awesome. Sean Durkin, the director, just seeing that interaction with him and Zak Efron and trying to pick up and just being a sponge and absorb as much as I can of the knowledge of that craft while I was there. That was another thing that was just really, really cool for me.
What was something that you feel like you picked up the most, like that you learned the most throughout the process?
Man, that's a great question. It's really hard to say because all of my stuff was like wrestling based. And so I don't know if I realized how many takes and angles would go into shooting a specific scenes. We shot probably, 7-8 hours straight.
Mm-hmm.
And so, set the camera up and shoot from this angle, and then do 5 takes that way, break, move, you shoot again from another angle, do 5-6 takes that way, and then you do that 5 or 6 times. I don't think I realized like that aspect of it, and then just to kind of get to watch the interaction with Zak Efron and Sean Durkin, the questions that he would ask, and just kind of pick up on that relationship between a lead star and a director. I think that was really, really cool for me. And I think Sean Durkin's just this fantastic, fantastic director, and his vision of what he wanted for this film and what it comes out to be. I think it was really going to surprise everybody. And I hope it gets all kind of award nominations. I know how hard the guys work, how much, time they put in training, and how much they actually respect the craft of professional wrestling now. To see the interviews they've done after they've shot and to hear them talk about it, and you can feel like they really get it because now they've lived it and have been through it.
Yeah, and it only takes a couple of bumps to start to respect it, right?
Yeah, oh man. And then you do 28 days of 6, 7, 8 hour days in that ring, sometimes longer. It don't take long, and you respect it really, really fast.
Yeah, I bet. Did you? And just listening to you talk, I hope you realize this, but you're talking about watching Zak or the actors and actresses and all that good stuff and picking up things from them. You do know they were looking at you as the expert in wrestling, and they were looking at you as the expert and admiring your work like you were admiring their work. So that's really cool in a movie like this.
That is really cool.
And
I really hadn't thought about it in that aspect. But now that you said, I mean, yeah, that's pretty damn awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it really, really is. And I just loved how Pondwater said, "I've got to watch it twice." I think we all know that movie's going to be on a permanent loop, like from when you get in the car,
Well,
when you're at home. Like you're never going to stop watching it.
well,
But I know
no,
what you're
I
saying.
mean,
I'm just
no,
teasing
I
you.
get real excited. I get real excited for I mean, if I just see people that we work with, our friends on WWE.
Right.
I
No,
mean,
I
you
totally-
look up in 1 week and there's Frankie and Bam, and they're actually in ring competition. And then
Right.
next week, Bam's a ringside physician. I mean, that they get those opportunities, and you love seeing the people like we were talking about earlier. Ray Fury's making his NWA debut tonight. You'd like to see the people do better for themselves.
I
You
totally
like proud of their
understand. I
accomplishments.
think that's one reason. That's one of the many reasons that this film is so special to me, because so many of my good friends who I've known for years are finally getting credits they deserve, and then stepping outside of the typical professional wrestling entertainment world and doing bigger things. And that excites me for them. It excites me for myself. I'm excited because it was shot in Louisiana, where I'm from, so it's good for the Louisiana Film Commission. There's just so many reasons why this thing is so special to me.
Can you, if you can you tell us a little bit about your new movie and what you're playing, or just is it? I'm assuming it's action. Can I assume action?
It is a sci-fi thriller.
Ooh,
go.
okay.
The title is called
Okay.
Portal in the Pines. It's not a big blockbuster. It's not a multi-million-dollar picture like Iron Claw is. It's a very I can't say much about it.
No, okay, yeah, I know what you
I'm very excited about it,
Mhm.
and I think the people, when you see it, I think you're gonna like it. It's a very unique story. Is about really all I can say. But I'm excited to be a part of it, because again, there's some. Make sure I'm not saying anything I don't need to say.
Yes,
I'm in with some very good friends of mine are also in this film that I've
Cool.
met in the acting world. So it was really cool to be able to share set and to watch them work again, and just kind of learn from them. So it's been really fun.
You mentioned
Awesome.
It's another feature film. I can say it. It's a feature film.
So when it gets ready to come out, and you can tell us a little bit more, tell us the name of. Make sure you let us know so we can kind of check it out too.
Absolutely, we'll come back and we'll do the podcast again and push it, because I'm all about promoting anything that I'm attached to.
That sounds
you
great.
mentioned earlier your kids. How old are they?
They're 11 and 9 now, and they both think they're 30. Especially the oldest one; she's a handful. The little one, you got to watch her. She's a little suspicious sometimes.
That's pretty.
She
cool
does jujitsu. My oldest does competition gymnastics, and they're both fantastic. And my youngest does competition jujitsu, and she'll sneak up behind you every once in a while, put you in a chokehold. Sometimes but she don't want to listen to Dad. I try to give her advice when she's on the mats, and the last thing she wants to listen to is anything that Dad has to say. Dad don't know anything about wrestling, fighting, none of that. It goes in one ear and right out the other. And she just gives you that look, like she'll say okay, but it's like, I ain't hearing none of that.
As the son of a coach's kid, I can understand where she's coming from.
But I'm proud of them, man. I am proud of both of them.
Well, I ask you that because it's got to be pretty cool for them at the ages of 11 and 9. Any age is cool, but 11 and 9 to see your dad on the big screen. That's pretty cool.
I hope it's cool for them. And I try to tell them all the time, you can do anything in this life you want to. All you have to do is want it bad enough and put the work in. So I try to lead by example, and by the, they've seen me doing acting classes now for a year, and they've saw the work that I put in, and finally starting to see some of the rewards of it with this film release and getting cast in this second film. So I just try to be an inspiration and hope that they can see through me the things that I teach them that I try to do myself.
Hard work pays off. That's a good
Hard work
lesson.
pays off, man. And you can do anything in this life.
Except for Florida State. Just kidding. No.
Except for what?
Except for Florida State.
Unless you go to Florida State.
That's right. See, that totally goes against everything I stand for, right?
I know. That's why you were fighting for them. You're
That's
like,
right. That's exactly right.
I do want to ask.
I'm a firm believer. And when I say that you can do anything in this life if you want it bad enough, I believe that with my whole heart.
You can tell, Cassidy. I mean, there's no doubt in my cold-blooded. Andrew, I'm sorry. There's no doubt. Like you can tell listening to you talk, you're almost motivational speaker level, So if you want to, after
Too
your
kind.
acting, if you want to do, I'm serious though.
Well,
I
he's
feel
natural. He's
pumped.
kind of a natural teacher, and I've
Yeah.
seen
Yes.
it. I've seen it working with young talent. I mean, even coming by my because I got a merch table at a lot of
Right.
events. He came by my merch table and I mean, just immediately, hey, you're doing this and this and this. You need to do it this way. I mean, and just naturally, and it wasn't overbearing or anything. It's just that he knows what needs to be done, and he's a very good communicator about how it needs to be done.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that, Dave. Thank you very much.
And do you think that if you ever do get the wrestling itch again, do you think training anybody might scratch that itch for you?
I don't know. The business is evolving so much from what it was when I broke in. And I don't mean that in a bad way. It's like anything. You either adapt or you die, and the business is doing that. I think the core base of it can still be very viable from my style of wrestling, which is more of caught in the ring, walk and talk and storytelling type wrestling, that just old school wrestling. But it's hard to say, man. I don't know. And it would take, like, I've worked with a few guys like Frankie and Bam, and I really enjoyed kind of getting to mentor them. I love both of those guys. I don't know if I could do it without doing it 110%. And that would be me being in the ring and actually physically teaching, not just sitting on a chair ringside, pointing
Right.
and saying, hey, do this, do that. And I don't know if my body would hold up to doing it that way. And if I couldn't do it that way, I don't think I would want to do it at all.
Right.
I do have one question real
Sure,
quick
Go ahead.
before. So I noticed in several of your pictures, even going back to the 2000s, you have a small heart tattoo on
It's
your
actually
chest.
a Superman sign. I got that when I
It
was like
is?
17 or 18.
Oh.
Yeah, and it's just kind of, as I've grown and developed, it's been a little distorted. And I've actually seriously considered having it removed or covered up. But it initially was what it was. It was my first tattoo that I ever got. I was very young, but it was a Superman symbol.
I love that. Okay, I thought it was a heart.
Yeah.
My first tattoo was a Superman tattoo too, and it was the guy did the colors backwards, and I ended up having to have it covered up.
Yeah, man, I got that when I was very young and had to hide it from my mom for a long time, and it was like had to get it small enough to where they wouldn't, so obvious. And then I remember like she got really upset the first time she found out. So young and dumb, man, and learning, you just you learn
There it
stuff
is.
like that.
Okay, it does look like a heart, but I bet now I can tell it's Superman.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
that works.
Amy, when you said it was a heart, I was hoping he was going to confess his love for Bret Hart, but
Oh,
that's
Hey,
apparently
man,
not.
I'm a huge Bret Hart fan. I will tell you that for sure.
Yeah, that makes two of us.
Well,
Actually, what's really cool is I actually got to run one of the few training camps that Brett ever did. Me and Chase Stevens ran it. We had it in Nashville, Tennessee.
Wow.
Crossfire Wrestling, Marcus Pastorius was running Crossfire Wrestling, brought Brett in. And that was one of the deals is he would come in early and do a training seminar. And Chase and I were the lucky ones who actually got to kind of run it for him. So it was really cool. So I got to meet Brett and hang out, talk to him, see how he would critique and advice he would give to probably had 30 or 40 kids there and get to watch them do a little work and then see what he had to say. So it was one of those milestones in my career, man.
His advice was, no one ever worked with Bill Goldberg.
you brought him
I will
up,
say
and
this,
I
like
was
he
going to
got
get
the
to
mic
him.
and started talking to everybody, and he got a little long-winded. So
Yeah.
we're finally like, hey man, we got to wrap this up. These kids got to get in the ring, and they're going to open the doors in about an hour, and we got a bunch of kids to get through.
Brett thought he was getting paid by the sentence.
Yeah, great guy, man. Probably one of my top 5. Yeah, I'd probably say top 5. I was going to say maybe top 3, but definitely my top 5 of all time.
Yeah.
Who's your top 3 since you were thinking about it? You didn't put them in their top 3, so you thought you have a top 3.
For me, like if we're going to do the Mount Rushmore, So I kind of have two Mount Rushmores. If I have a workers Mount Rushmore, for me, it's got to be Sean as one, Flair as two, probably Brett as three, and then Arn Anderson, Bobby Eaton 4 and 5. It's a toss up. I love Arn, love Bobby. So that'd probably be my top, like as far as workers, Mount Rushmore. If we're talking about entertainment value in general, my top 4 would probably be Austin, Rock, Hogan, and who else would be in that kind of, which Austin and Rock both were great wrestlers too. But I say that mainly because they generated ton of marketing sales, ton of revenue and T-shirts and stuff. So I don't mean that as a slight to those guys in any way. I just mean as dollars drawn from an entertainment standpoint.
Well,
how I would categorize that Mount Rushmore.
Yeah,
Austin did his best business when he couldn't wrestle. It was all entertainment.
I was going to say, I don't think anybody, if you're talking about worker, would put Austin and Rock there. I mean, their value is based on entertainment,
and marketing. That's right.
Their mouth, basically, and how they could do promos. So I don't think anybody would think that. Arn, I'll make sure Arn knows, because I am the first lady of his fan club. That
love Arn.
Yes.
Arn was always good to me when I was at WCW and he was an agent, and I was just doing some kind of lower end stuff there. Arn was always seemed to be a fan of my work and would pick us out. They'd say Arn picked, 2 or 3 of the guys out from the group of extras that was here. And every time Arn had to pick, he would always pick me. And so I have so much respect for him. And just when I was at WWE, I'd pull him aside and try to pick his brain, it's like just as far as tag team wrestling, because him and Tully were so good, man. And then you got to put Tully up there too, as probably one of my top 5 favorite workers of all time.
Well, I will give your regards when I talk to him.
He'll probably say who. He probably,
when you was in WCW,
he knows so many people, and I'm just probably a minute flash in the pan of his career.
No, he'll remember. I know.
When you were working there with Arn in WCW, was that at the end of the WCW reign?
Yeah, I was there like the last year
That's
and a half. And we did a lot of stuff. Like we would have matches on WCW Worldwide, which is one of the syndicated shows, and WCW Saturday Night. And then we would go in for like Nitro and Thunder, and we would do like security guard stuff or just different various roles. There towards the end, we did the R&B security with Russo and Bischoff. And so we'd go in and we were kind of the buffer between everybody and the authority of Russo and Bischoff, so we'd get our ass kicked by all the top guys. But dude, it was so cool because you're in these arenas. Like we were at Phillips Arena in Atlanta when Goldberg came back, and I got to do spots in the ring with him in Phillips Arena with 90, it was like, I don't know, whatever, 70,000, 90,000 people. And to hear, when you're standing in the ring and to hear that amount of people erupt, even if you're fisting get your ass whooped, it's just like, man. So it just kind of lets you know this is how it's really supposed to be done. And this is what it's supposed to feel like. And to have that experience, would take and help me kind of elevate my game later in life when I would get chances in other promotions and would sign with WWE or whether it was TNA or whatever. I had recollection and in-ring knowledge and was, actually able to feel what it should really feel like when it's done right.
Well, the reason why I ask you that, and your answer surprised me, because I was going to say, was there any stories of that last year, just how in the shitter it was backstage? But you kind of said, it was just kind of cool for you to experience that, kind of your first time, big time being out there.
Yeah, dude, I was making the most money I ever made in my life and traveling and was in 3 or 4 different cities a week. For me, it was nothing. I didn't see nothing in the shitter. I was living like high on the hog. Like I was loving life, man. It was like we were in Baltimore the night after the Ravens won the Super Bowl. We were in New Orleans when it was Mardi Gras. If there was a party, you were in, Panama City Beach for spring break or South Padre Island. My very first show I ever went in, which is insane when I think about it, was spring break at South Padre Island. And so we pull across the bridge into South Padre, and there's just cars lined up everywhere. And then you walk in the hotel room and there's just people standing. I mean, probably 400 or 500 people in the lobby just waiting to see the boys and get an autograph or take a picture. And it's like, dude, I don't know if he can get any better than this. We're at spring break. We're at South Padre Island. There's girls in bikinis everywhere. I'm hanging out. I'm making great money. And Terry Taylor came up to us at one point during that day and was like, yeah, I'm not sure if we're going to have anything for you guys to do. So
That's
we'll
fine.
probably go have a drink out by the pool. And I'm like, you're going to pay me and I can go sit out here and watch this bikini contest and I'm actually making money? Thank you, God.
Not only did you get to go to spring break.
Bad about WCW ever. It was a fantastic experience for me.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you is when you transitioned from, from Nashville and Burt Prentice's USA and all the Southern wrestling to WCW, the culture shock when you got there, how different it was. Did you have a completely different way that you had to learn to do things, or?
No, not really. The biggest thing was just how much larger scale production that it was. It kind of takes a little getting used to that, going from a regional television show. I did a lot of studio wrestling, television in studios, and then just seeing the massive amount of people that work behind the scenes to put on a nationally televised show like that. That was a little bit not different, but it was just everything that I'd done, but on such a grander stage, I guess you could say. So, but as far as the wrestling's always the same. Once you learn how to wrestle on TV and time cues and there were certain things I did learn when I was there. I'll never forget, go back to Terry Taylor. He told me one time, there's different ways to sell. So there's one way to sell if you're in a house show or non-televised match. There's one way to sell if you're in a televised match, which is usually 4, 5, 6 minutes. And there's another way to sell if you're in a pay-per-view match, which is usually 12, 15, 20 minutes. You have to figure out the timing of what you're doing, the business of what you're doing, and adjust accordingly. And Al Snow was another guy who was a huge proponent in teaching me that, was you always figure out the business and you look at stuff from a business aspect as well, not just pure wrestling. It's got to be business and entertainment, and it all has to, come together and conglomerate for it to hit and make a home run.
You were talking about different ways to sell, and it made me think, a lot of guys, especially, the older school guys, love to go out there and let kind of the crowd, non-televised show, the crowd you almost let the crowd lead the match and let that decide kind of what you guys do. How is that for you? Are you more of a call it out there and let the crowd kind of react to, or you react to the crowd, or do you like that better?
Way better. Well, and because I can't remember step for step a 15-minute match. I've never.
Yeah, you're not pulling a Randy Savage. This is move 68. We're going to 69.
Well, you just saw that happen.
There's been many times in my career when I had to do it, but as far as for me personally, I can tell you my retirement match was probably one of my most favorite matches of the last 5 years of my career with Chase. He literally comes in, and we had talked. I mean, he literally comes in probably 20 to 25 minutes before the match is just going to go to the ring. And we spend that 20 minutes hugging and love, hey, brother, catching up and, talking. And then maybe 3 minutes, 5 minutes tops before we go out, say, hey, this is what we'll do for the finish. And then we went out and just did, 15 minutes of everything else on the fly. And that's one reason why I've had several people say, oh, man, you sure you don't want to come back? Just do, you can come back and be in this so-and-so's corner just for this match, kind of help sell some tickets or whatever. And I've had several opportunities from different promotions to do that. And I've always declined because I don't think that anything can be as special as that night, because for me, that's how professional wrestling should have been done. And nothing else, I don't think will be able to top that for me.
Yeah. Could you have been a guy?
And the only negative thing about that night is that that more people couldn't have seen it.
Yeah, it's completely sold out. Yeah, we had to turn people away, and that again was such an honor to be able to say we sold that show out like a week before Didn't do any live gates, any tickets, any walk-up tickets. It was completely sold out, the week before or earlier the week of that show. And that's the first time that had ever happened for Josh and for BIW. So that was special for me to be able to give him that, for being able to give me a place to come and wrestle in my later years when my kids could see me.
And because you were willing to come do that, your star got to shine and introduced a crowd to people that they may not have came. I mean, without you being there, there's some people that were there that may not have got to come and see. I mean,
other
people
guys
that came to see you are still they're still coming to see who's still there.
I hope so. And that was I hope I was able to, leave it better than I found it. And that's always was my goal going into a promotion, is to try to leave it better than what it was when you came there, no matter how short or how long your duration was. Just you go in and do everything you can to try to elevate the guys and elevate the promotion. And so when it's time to go, then you have left it better than you found it. And I hope I was able to do that for Josh and BIW.
I think you did. I honestly do believe you did.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it.
And you mentioned Chase. I know that I'm going to get you wrapped up because we've been on for a while. I wanted you to talk about Chase Stevens, though. Y'all got together in TNA.
Man, I don't know how much time you got left on this thing. Like, I can go on about Chase Stevens. I have stories that I could tell about him, and he probably has stories he could tell about. We could spend the rest of this night, and we'd probably have to crack a cold one open to start really talking and remember. And the bad thing is, like, I've done so much, and I don't mean this braggadocious. I've done so much cool stuff, and I was like, a whole lot of it has been with him. And we'll sit around and we'll get to talking, and like he'll bring something up. I'm like, God, man, I completely forgot about that until somebody else brings it up, and then you start reminiscing and remembering. But dude, he's probably one of the absolute best that I've ever been in the ring with, as far as calling it on the fly and just working, being a true worker. He is fantastic. And that's one reason it was really special for me and why I asked him to come in and do my retirement match with me. We've had some of the best matches against each other of my career. I've had some of the best matches tagging with him in my career. We've done so many cool things for almost 5 years straight. We did all of the WWE video games. We did motion capture for every WWE video game from about 2007 to about 2013.
Cool.
So we were out in California a week, a month, every year, pretty much year round for almost 4 or 5 years. And so there's just so many stories that I could tell. It's probably best if I don't get
He's a different type of cat for sure.
It might self-incriminate me as well. But dude, I love him. He's like my brother, and I wish there were 100 more people like him, because the wrestling business would be in a way better. Not that it's in a bad position, but he's just really, and we say it amongst ourselves a lot, he's the last of a dying breed. And I truly mean that. Like, he was trained by Tracy Smothers, and Tracy taught him how he did it, and he learned exceptionally well and is able to go out, put a match together, feel the people, not do a lot of rehearsed stuff. If something happens, his ability to change directions and go in a different direction at the drop of a hat. He is so good in that ring.
Well, we've worked, just the last Vicksburg show that you came to, I got to work with him, and there was one part of the match that if the crowd wasn't coming up, I bet you we'd still be there.
Yeah, he gets it. He knows, and he doesn't let them dictate to him what he's going to do. He's the one driving the bus, and he's the mariachi puppet. He's the one pulling the strings for the puppet to make them dance. A lot of guys get, things don't start going their way when they expect it to. They start panicking. And it's like, oh, we got to do something different. We got to heat and stay, it's calm, smooth, even in televised matches. Oh, they're cutting your time from 6 minutes to 3 minutes. No problem. You can make adjustments on the fly, or they're extending your match. You had 4 minutes. Now you got 9 because somebody's hurt and we need to fill some time. So you got 5 extra minutes. And they tell you this stuff while you're in the ring. Not a problem. He can do it either way and not miss a beat. And guys like that, it's special to have a guy that can control the tempo of a match, can adjust, can flow, can listen to the people. and call it all in the ring. And I think that's one reason why we blended so well together as a tag team and became like brothers, is because our philosophy about professional wrestling are so similar.
I think one of the things that's interesting to me that you just said is that he's one of those people that if the crowd's not reacting exactly how he wants, he doesn't care because he's going to get them to where he wants to get them eventually.
Yeah, that's right. That's
Yeah,
exactly
and
right.
that's what a pro does. Yeah.
Dude, and that's a very hard spot to get to in the industry. It's really difficult because you think, you know, if they're not giving you what you want right when you want it, a lot of guys panic and shift gears and go a different direction. It's like, you're the one driving the bus. If they're not giving it to you, you keep doing your thing. And if you do it and you're doing it right, they're going to come where they need to come and get to where they need to get to by the end if it's done right.
There's so many kids in this. There's so many kids in the business today. If they would get that, they would not. I don't think they understand how powerful it is.
Yeah,
how much better it is.
Well,
and I think that they just don't understand. But I've seen you do it. I've seen Chase do it. John Saxon's
great too. Yeah,
John Saxon did it all the time. I've
Anthony.
seen Tim do it.
Yeah, it's Tim.
Frankie
Tim
does
Storm.
it. Frankie does it.
Yeah, Tim Storm, Steve Anthony. You know,
yes,
I've been able to hopefully distill some of my knowledge on doing that, passing it down to Frankie. And he's one of those kids I think that had he been born in the 80s, he probably would have been able to wrestle in the 80s. He's one of those utility guys, Frankie is, that can go out there and wrestle with anybody, big, small, whatever. He would have made a very good living, you know, just working from territory to territory because he is adaptable and able to do different styles with different size guys. And that's what, you know, really makes you a worker in the business. And he's good at it. Bam's good at it too, man. I love Bam Bam Malone. I think that kid's headed to the moon.
He's just getting started.
He's a heavyweight, right? Didn't he win the championship?
Yeah, he did win the championship.
Yeah,
I thought he did.
So I think he's got a huge upside, and he's just such a respectful guy. He wants to learn the business. He sends me matches all the time. He's like, "Hey, man, can you just watch this?" And just now I'll start texting him back, like, you know, 1 and 47 seconds in, this is what I see. 2 minutes and 37 seconds in, watch this, and just picking it apart for him. And he appreciates it. He gets it. He learns, you know, but the fact that he takes time and wants to get better, and I try to, you know, just bestow what knowledge I do have and pass that on to him. I think that speaks volumes for his character and where he's gonna end up in his career because of that.
And there's a lot of guys that don't do that. It's not like everyone does that, you know. And the things that I do, you know, some of the young guys that are coming into our profession, some of them do that, and then some of them don't. And
and then some of them don't want to take the advice. They ask you for it, but it's just more kind of out of a courtesy type deal than actually wanting to learn. You know, you can tell who's genuine and who's not.
One of the things, real quick, I won't take too long. So you said you and Shane, I think you said you all were like part of the video games. Chase. I'm sorry, Chase Stevens. I'm sorry, Shane Stevens.
Yep.
Chase, you all were part of the video games. Like they like put all the stickers on you, and they're like throw a punch kind of thing. How cool was that?
We did every move for every WWE video game for about 5 years, and how that came about was when I was working for WWE. They sent me out to California to THQ Studios in Los Angeles to do the motion capture because they originally would use their developmental talent to do the motion capture for their video games. So when I was under developmental, went out, met the directors and everybody, worked really hard again while I was out there and made an opportunity for myself to where when they closed OVW and moved everything to Florida, they didn't have, I don't know if it was, I don't want to say the resources because they had the resources, but I guess everything was in just such a kind of a whirlwind of getting that started in Florida. They didn't want to take the guys from the developmental and send out there. So THQ called me and said, "Hey, look, we got a video game to produce. We don't have any mocap actors. Can you put a crew together for us?" And I said, and I had just gotten released from WWE at that time. And it was like really great money. And I don't mean, again, it was a really great opportunity for me. The money was really good. And so who do I call? I called some guys that I could trust. I called David Young, Chase Stevens, Mike Mondo, who was from another guy that was under developmental. That's a great in-ring talent. Micah Taylor would eventually come in with us, and we put a crew of guys together and just knocked it out. I mean, they would have the Japanese company, Ukes, the animation company. They would take 2 dummies, like mannequins that were made out of cloth, and make them do moves, and then ask us to replicate it. And through 5 years, there were 3 things that they asked us to do that we wasn't able to do when couldn't feel comfortable. And so if they could think about it, that group of guys was able to do it and put it on a video game. That was really, really cool.
That is an incredible
It's
story.
funny, it's funny you say that. There's video out on Twitter of like the video games in like '93 when it was like Sega CD, like WWE, I forget what it was, Royal Rumble or Raw or something like that. And Brett and Undertaker and all those guys, there's video of those guys doing it, like jumping
Right.
on the mat in front of the green screen and all that.
Yeah.
So they basically said, we're not going to do that anymore. And so they started farming that out. And the technology became better, probably where they didn't have to have those guys doing it, right?
Yeah. And so with, then they can take and superimpose their features over.
Yeah.
We can mimic the movement so close to it. They would show us a video and say, okay, whether we're doing entrances, whether we're doing moves, whether we were doing taunts, whatever it was, they would take and show us that video. And that group of guys was so talented that we could mimic it so close you would never know that it wasn't the actual guys doing it. They would just, put their appearance over it. And I'm really, really proud of the work that we all put in doing that.
I would say the taunts would be some of the hardest stuff to mimic, right?
Yeah.
You got to do it just like
I don't know,
person.
man. You should have seen what some of the Japanese guys from Uke, some of the moves they had find. And they'd pull up video and you'd be like, how the hell did you guys find this? And how the hell are they even doing that? We're going to need a minute to watch this video a few times to figure out how to do this.
It's like, I'm pretty good, but I'm not Eddie Guerrero and Rey Mysterio.
Dude, I'm talking like, seriously, one of the things was a top rope, Canadian destroyer with both guys standing on the top rope.
No way.
Chase Stevens and David Young did it. To this day, I still don't know how they did it. They pulled it off.
And
like,
when
"You
he
got
says
that,
David
right?
Young,
You got
y'all,
that."
that's the same David Young we talked about last week with Primetime.
Yes.
Oh,
He's been working
really?
in Primetime Wrestling. That's the same one.
Here's the real question, Cassidy. Did you buy the game and be like, as Terry Weaver says, that's my drop kick. That's my
No, I didn't have to buy it. They give it to you for free. That was another thing that was so cool about it. Like,
He's
you didn't have to
forever
buy
in video
you
games
just
now.
got a copy of all of them.
Exactly. How cool. I mean, what with the little stuff that we learned is just so fascinating, to think, like you said, it was you. Those games, that's you. And, like when they're playing, Justin,
I'm playing
when you're
as me with Big Show's head on me or whatever.
That's right.
Well,
with
Cassidy,
doing the moves.
Cassidy, I can't thank you enough for joining us tonight.
Oh man, I enjoy
I know
it.
your time. I know your time's limited, and I appreciate you giving us an hour or so of it. And we're so excited to hear about everything that's going on with you.
Thank you.
And we're excited. The Iron Claw comes out December 22nd.
Yep, in theaters everywhere.
Everybody get out there and see it and support this project.
Thank you.
Anytime that you want to come on our show and promote anything, you have an open invitation. You deserve everything great that's coming to you right now. I love you, brother.
I love you, man.
Thank you so much.
Too kind. I appreciate it. I enjoyed the last hour or however long it was. The conversation was great. Brought up some good memories for me. And I always enjoy, just conversing with people who genuinely love professional wrestling and entertainment in general. And I know you guys all do. And David, of course, I think the world of you. And we've shared a lot of special times in the ring. So I thank you for those as well. So just thank you guys for giving me your platform. This is your show. Thank you for giving me time to come onto your show, into your house, onto your platform, and just tell a little bit about myself and, some of the stuff that I have going. So I appreciate it very much. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Man, one of these days when we can, we're going to try and do a bonus watch along of the movie with some of the people that's been on the show and involved with the movie. So we'd love to have
if you guys don't call me for that, I'm going to be pissed.
We'll do it. Definitely.
Thank you so much,
have to-
Cassidy.
All
I
right,
watched
guys,
it a few-
have a good
I
night.
watched it a
Thank
few
you.
times, so I'm not crying every time.
That's right. Yeah, I'm gonna have to watch it a few times too, so you guys don't see me crying when I watch it.
Take care.
Thank you,
Merry
guys.
Christmas to you.
Hey, Merry
Bye.
Christmas, guys. See y'all.
Yes, Merry Christmas.
Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Cassidy
Man.
Riley, everybody. How cool
That
was
was
that?
so awesome.
He reminds me of like a DDP character, like someone that's just always kind of like,
Oh,
He's
he's
a
very positive.
motivational. Yes. I love that. That's fun.
I think the world of that guy. I'm so happy that he came on our show. I miss having him in the locker room. It was so excited. I was so excited when he came to the show in Vicksburg. He came and just hung out, and just listening to him and Chase talk in the back. That's the best. Sometimes that's the best part of being involved in the wrestling business is when you get to sit back with your ears open and your mouth shut, and and there's stories that I damn sure can't repeat them.
well, we hope, yeah.
That is a YouTube exclusive, right?
No, it's not either. It's
not
like
even a
taking it to
YouTube-
my grave.
Yeah.
Oh man.
I hope you guys in the chat and everyone listening found that fun. I know we did. We talked about everything from college football to the movie to acting to wrestling to raising children and all kinds of things. We got a lot of stuff in that hour and 10-minute conversation right there.
We did, and I mean, we could. And he's right. We could have gone 2 or 3 more hours.
Well,
'cause-
and that's why I love having people like him on. Okay, he started off wrestling. He's been all over the place. He mentioned how he worked in WCW and WWE and TNA. Was a freaking video game character. He's in movies.
and who saw that coming?
I
Who
know,
saw
that's
that
what I'm
coming?
saying,
Yeah,
like,
that was cool.
He really, he has really done a lot of stuff. Now he's in movies. Now he's doing a sci-fi movie. I mean,
I'm friends with him on Facebook, and I see that where he checks in a lot, and he's really putting the time in to learn his craft for this acting. And I really hope. I mean, the guy's got charisma on loan from God.
I mean,
I
there's
mean,
no doubt he's going to do well.
Dave, that's
No?
not the right word. Do you know what the Webster's Dictionary word of the year 2023 is?
I'm not saying that.
What is it? I don't even know.
The Riz.
Amy,
What
if you
is
have
it?
charisma,
Oh.
charisma, you have the Riz.
Oh,
And I think I
geez.
got the Riz in college, but that's something else.
Yeah.
think.
I think that starts with a J. That's okay.
I'm almost 60. There'll be no be selling to anybody. They have the Riz.
Riz.
Uh,
Yeah,
okay.
that's like rickets. That's
well,
like,
since you
very
two
bad.
have the Riz, talk amongst yourselves before we do this trivia question because I got a whiz and not Riz.
oh
so.
Lord, piss
How
break
about that for a
Jones. There
segue?
he goes.
Hey, it ain't an airport. You don't have to announce it.
I'm just gonna try not to pee on the floor for people behind me.
That's very nice. What?
I'm gonna need you to get a diaper and be a little more professional, Justin.
No kidding. What about big belts? Do we have any belt talk that we need to do today?
We do. I'm glad that you mentioned that because I got to think that if I don't do that like I'm supposed to, that why?
Big time belts. Oh no, is that not what we're supposed to be doing? Big time belts.
Big time
There we
belts.
go.
Yes, it's time to talk about big time belts. Do you like championship belts? I like championship belts. I got 75 of them. I throw that one over my shoulder and walk around the house, the king of Mississippi. It makes me feel like a badass. BIW got their tag team belts from Big Time Belts. If you're a wrestling promotion, don't send your champions out to the ring with toy belts with stickers on them. Get them the real deal, and you can do that at Big Time Belts. Because at Big Time Belts, we have high quality, low prices. The PCW Mid-Carolina Heavyweight Champion knows about Big Time Belts. The Pennsylvania Grand Champion knows about Big Time Belts. The AWA Tag Team Champions have more
Those are
Koloff,
nice.
by the way. They're all about Big Time Belts.
We need more
Gulf
Koloff.
Coast, the Gulf Coast. The Women's Champion in EPW. Big Time Belts is representing in professional wrestling. How about this belt that's on the screen if you're watching? It's a fantasy football belt. I'd rather have that than a trophy or a check. Get you your favorite team a motivational belt. My granddaughter's softball team, they hit a home run, they're out of the dugout, giving them that belt. The girls love it. This guy that got this belt made likes the Vegas Golden Knights, bless his heart. The Mississippi Seawolves, Big Time Belts is just doing it all. Go to facebook.com, join the group Big Time Belts. We can take your basic designs and put them on leather and zinc plates, just like the professionals, just like what you see on television. And we want to thank Big Time Belts for sponsoring our show.
Did you say Mississippi Seawolves?
I did.
What is a sea wolf? I don't think I've ever heard of one of those. Play the commercial again so I can know what
I'm going to freeze frame it.
Oh,
it comes after the spare-ass Las Vegas Golden Knights.
The origin, yeah, their origins are
I'd rather wear a disease.
There it is. A sea wolf. I didn't know.
Gulf Coast Wrestling sponsors the Mississippi Seawolves minor league hockey team.
Now, I just have a question. If you're a minor league hockey team in freaking Mississippi, you're thinking, what name can we get for this? Let's see, Mississippi. Yeah, I don't know. There's not a whole lot to poverty, the Mississippi poverty. I don't know. But what is a sea wolf, and why would they think that should be their name?
What are they? They're a minor league team?
Yes.
Is that what you said?
Minor league hockey team.
Are they under, like, aren't a lot of minor teams like under a major league team? Like, is that how the name comes?
Sometimes, like when I was a kid, we had the Dallas Blackhawks minor league hockey team, and they were, of course, affiliated of the Chicago Blackhawks.
Right. So
I'd have to do some research on the Seawolves. My wife tells me. My wife tells me there used to be a hockey minor league hockey team in Jackson. They used to go to minor league hockey is very, very, very entertaining because they fight like hell.
Well, we used to have I don't know if they were minor league I thought they were independent league. We used to have the Cincinnati Cyclones when I was growing up. And yeah, that was kind of the same thing. There's always fights and everything. Andrew, Mississippi Illiterates. I think that would have been better than the Seawolves. I just don't know what a Seawolf is. I'm going to find out.
But it looked pretty badass with that.
It was kind of cool. I did like the belt.
it is a deep belt.
Some of these teams, they just come up with cool ways to market. Look.
Like Trash Pandas.
Look, the Rocket City Trash Pandas. How great is that? I'm hoping that if the Mississippi Braves ever have to quit using Braves, that we'll get a cool name for our
Trash Pandas. What about the Savannah Bananas?
Exactly.
Oh God, they're amazing.
The Birmingham Biscuits. Birmingham Biscuits.
Yeah, I have heard of the Savannah Bananas, Amy.
Okay,
they're more like a show than an actual
Biloxi
baseball
Gulf,
team.
the Jumbo Shrimp.
Yeah, but they still got to play ball. It's like the Harlem.
Well, I feel like the Savannah Bananas are the Harlem Globetrotters of baseball. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, yeah, but you got to still be able to play basketball. The Montgomery.
Yeah, but you're not playing.
But
you're not playing it really competitively. If you're out there doing a whole show and you're at bat, then you're not.
Yeah,
really
the Washington Generals weren't beating the Globetrotters.
Well, that's very true. I'm just saying, it's not just that they're entertainment. They do at least need to be able to hit the ball and run around.
Yes, there's probably some prerequisites. Yeah. All right. Are we going to finish our trivia that I was kicking ass in before we got interrupted?
We can, and then we'll have to wrap it up because, I go to bed.
Okay, right. You answered. You hot-shotted that answer that it was Waldo Von Erich, and that is correct. And in kayfabe's talk, Lance Von Erich was the son of Waldo Von Erich.
That is number 5. Quit talking.
Oh, I didn't read them.
I don't know.
That just proves to you I didn't read them.
I don't know if it's number 5. I've just given you hell.
All right, let's go to question number 3.
Who was the first to reveal to wrestling fans that Fritz Von Erich was not from Germany, but was in fact from Dallas, Texas?
I have no idea. I know Dave knows this. So
I know it. Let's go to the chat and see who knows it.
Harley Race, Gene Knitsky, Gary Hart, or Baron von Roski?
That I'm going Von Roschke because he's probably going, I'm from over there and I know he's not from there. So that's where I'm going to go.
T-Weave answered it with a question mark. Coach Keith answered it without a question mark. So Coach Keith's going to get the win on that one.
Gary Hart.
It was C. Gary Hart.
I like that.
That was my other guess because I knew he was in Texas and everything.
Gary Hart to Fritz Von Erich is what Bobby Heenan was to Hulk Hogan.
Yeah. Yes. Would you like to know exactly what he said?
Yes.
He said to the crowd, he's not even German. His name is Jack Atkinson. He went to SMU and his dad is a thief.
And wait till you get a hold of these kids.
I think I've seen that. I think I've seen that video. I think I've seen that promo before.
I'm trying to say it doesn't say where. It says he came to the ring during a television taping and began to berate Von Erich, calling him a liar and phony. Then he announced to the crowd, he's not even German. His name is Jack Atkinson. He went to SMU and his dad is a thief.
You know what would have been even funnier if he just, and I know this is probably not true, but nothing in wrestling is true. So if he would have said, and not only that, but he fought against Germany in World War II.
He was at Normandy. No, I don't know.
Andrew Hermes says that there's no way that he is Heenan level, and I did not say that he was Heenan level. I said that Gary Hart and Fritz Von Erich is what Bobby Heenan was to Hulk Hogan. But if you go back and you listen to, just go down the rabbit hole of Gary Hart promos, be it whether he was in Georgia, be it whether he was in Florida, be it whether he was up in Crockett in the Mid-Atlantic, or even all of his Dallas promos, Gary Hart's top 5 manager. And he doesn't get the mentions, he doesn't get the credit that he deserves. He was a brilliant wrestling mind, booking the territory. I just want y'all to know that while I don't think that to me, Bobby Heenan's number 1.
And Jim Cornette's number 2.
Yes. Respectfully, but Gary Hart's top 5 for sure. Question 4.
Who did Kevin Von Erich defeat in his debut match in 1976? Was it Bobby Eaton, Mark Lewin, Ronnie Garvin, or Buddy Rose?
I'm going with that damn Buddy Rose because I don't know that I've ever seen him win a match. So I'm going to go Buddy Rose on this.
Chat, does anybody have any ideas?
I don't think Bobby Eaton would have been in Texas at that time. So I know it's not him. Ronnie Garvin, probably not either. That's why I went Buddy Rose.
It is Buddy Rose.
And his name was not Buddy Rose. It was
his real name, Paul.
It was Paul St. John.
Paul Persimmon.
Yeah, but he was billed as Paul St. John that night.
Oh, really?
But who was scheduled?
Dave was there, Amy.
No, was it? But who was scheduled to be Kevin Von Erich's first match and did not show up and was replaced by Buddy Rose?
Ooh.
Listen to him being too much. He's being extra here.
I am.
Is that Dave? No, just kidding.
Yeah.
Give us don't tell us. Was it someone from WCCW? Was it someone coming in? Like, give us a hint.
He was heavily featured in WCW, AWA, and WWF.
Terry Funk.
In 1976?
1976. He is a former world champion.
Oh, God. Harley Race?
Why would Harley Race wrestle under a different name?
Oh, I didn't know it was a different name. I missed
No.
it.
I mean, Harley Race did not cancel for Kevin's debut match.
Oh, okay. That's what I was.
Lost. In 1976, I mean, Bruno.
No, you wouldn't. You're never going to guess it.
So thanks for making us guess.
How about I tell you that he was a former AWA World Heavyweight Champion?
Nick Bockwinkel.
Rick Martel.
Rick Martel is
correct.
What do I get? Anything? Darn. Okay.
You get
the
a
ghost
goose
of Bobby the
and
Brain
an alligator
Heenan.
tail.
The ghost of Bobby the Brain Heenan is going to show up at your house tomorrow to deliver you nothing.
Oh, he's a ghost. I don't need that stuff here. So let me ask you this: why did he not show up?
I just knows that was the story, that he was originally scheduled, but he didn't go.
Interesting.
Maybe he didn't want to do the job for Fritz's kid. I don't know.
Maybe it got snowy in Minneapolis and he
Well,
couldn't
and he
leave.
was like you said. I mean, he was an AWA champion, like, and to go down and just get defeated by someone.
But he looked so young that I didn't realize that he was wrestling in 1976.
Well, I was gonna say
When I
he
first
wasn't
heard
the,
that
he
story.
wasn't the champion in '76, Amy. He was a champion in like the '80s, so he would have been pretty young.
But
right?
he was tag team champion. I mean, he had a lot of belts young.
Yeah,
I mean, he was a protege in the AWA. So I mean, I'm
Wasn't
just
he-
saying. I think it's funny because a lot of times, granted, I did when I was younger. You look at Rick Martel coming in; he's Strike Force, and he's but
Yeah.
he had that was almost the downward slope of his career because he had such a
yeah.
monumental, career.
But Andrew
You know what I mean?
Andrew is right. He was the AWA champion in the mid '80s, like 85, 86.
Gotcha.
It might
Something
have been
like-
85. I thought it.
Yeah.
I thought it was
because
84.
I
but
think he was He was the AWA champion, Rick Martel. Rick was the NWA champion,
Uh-huh.
and I think Hogan was the WWE champion. So I think that was like the three at the time.
I think I'm like you. I'm surprised 85. I would have thought, like you said, 84 because I feel like he was in WWF.
Yeah, but he
too,
did.
you know?
He didn't really start until like '87 or '8. Well, he was in WWE in and out in the '80s, but the model gimmick didn't start until the very late '80s.
That's
But
true.
he was in Strike Force and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, he did a lot of. I mean, he was at WrestleMania 3, which that was 87, right? Is
Right.
that
Yeah.
right? 87.
Yeah.
all right.
All right.
Okay, sorry,
What's our
sorry.
Question
next-
number 5. No, we did it. No, that's it.
Nope, that's our question. After David Von Erich made his debut in 1978, what was the first tag team title he and Kevin?
Kevin.
Well, that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
The bottom. Were they Bobby Eaton tag team champions? Mark Lewin tag team champions?
I think we got a typo on that one.
Yeah.
Uh,
How about I just tell you? I'll just tell
Yeah.
you the story.
Hey, and anybody can make a mistake. So nobody go to Twitter and tweet at Teppy14 about this because she does a great job every week.
Yes, she
And
does.
she should not be reminded that she made a mistake.
I'm just saying, if Teppy was running this production right now, she would have already double checked her shit and it would have been fixed. But
That's
Dave is
very
running
true.
this, so.
That's very
Teppy
true.
sent me this stuff. She barely looked up from her basketball game to send it to me.
Well, I will say this: I did send her this stuff late, so I mean, if she
barely
made a
looked
mistake,
up from her basketball.
It
As a
was
matter of
my
fact,
fault.
reach out at Teppy14 on Twitter and tell her what a great job she does. You can actually tell her that it's noticeably different when she's not at the helm.
Well,
it is
this
very different.
yeah, I was gonna say, don't listen to Dave and crap.
Well,
on
let me
Teppy.
tell you this real
Thi-
quick: they won the Texas Tag
Yeah.
Team Championships. Just
Okay.
yay!
Yay. Well,
They did.
listen.
And it
For
looked
that-
just like this.
Ooh, that's pretty too. What's in the middle? Is that an eagle? Yeah.
Yep.
Is an eagle what is just an eagle? Has it got something else or?
Fly like an eagle.
It's like it's a hummingbird.
Oh, I was gonna say it looked like a pretty elaborate bird. I couldn't tell what
It's a
it
hummingbird.
was.
Oh, and it's in in Texas. That makes sense.
Kinda. I don't know. Apparently, we got hummingbirds here. I don't know.
Is the hummingbird the state bird of Texas?
No, the blue jay is.
I thought this
Why
was.
is there a hummingbird on it?
And there's a
What-
picture of, I don't know, because Molka, it was the 70s and Molka might have been on drugs. I don't know.
How
Yeah,
the hell do you know
LSD.
Rick Martel was supposed to show up? Nobody else does, but you
But
don't know why. a
there's David and
hummingbird's on
Kevin.
it.
There's David and Kevin with the belts.
That's very nice.
With
I
the
can't-
hummingbird belt.
Can we just tell everybody? First off, I do want to mention real quick during the big time belt segment, we had the AWA, right? Vladimir Koloff's belt.
Yeah.
We don't want to forget. We're halfway there. We have about 255 subscribers to our YouTube channel. When we get to 300, The man that holds
Whoa,
that
pump
belt.
the brakes.
Why?
Ixnay on the cannonball A.
Why?
Because I don't want to take it.
No, you've
I
already
can't wait
told
to watch him.
Vladimir. I mean, he's
Vladimir's
super
excited about it.
I know he's super excited about
I
it.
was supposed to be on a show with Vladimir Friday, and I was sick, and I had to cancel. That tells you how sick I was that I canceled a wrestling event. Lost Art of Wrestling. They had a very successful event in McGee, Mississippi.
Yes.
And I hope to be back with them again. But I was sick. I was running fever Friday, and I did not want to get the locker room sick, so I had to cancel.
Well, yeah.
But in the chat, the group chat for the show, Vladimir Koloff and Camacho does not think he chopped me adequately. He thought he got too much nipple and wants to do it again. I said I'm good. And he thinks that I owe it to everybody to let him do it again.
I think at 400, I mean, we got to get Vladimir already knows.
Koloff is so excited about giving me a cannonball.
Terry Weaver once told me that you can never get too much nipple, Dave. So I'm just saying.
I think Vladimir has actually made some bots that like add to our numbers. So I'm just letting you know that.
We're sitting at 254. At 300, this is going to happen.
Yes. So like, subscribe, tell your friends. Sorry you made a bet your ass can't handle, but that's what you said you're going to do.
Tell your friends to watch our show and not subscribe, because y'all
wrong. Subscribe.
Y'all don't want to see me take a cannonball.
Yes, they do.
No, they don't.
They want to see you.
I know I do. If I could subscribe and
people
set
love
up all
me.
different accounts right now, I would.
All of a sudden,
people love me.
All I know is for the 500, Amy said that I had to take a power bomb instead of mayonnaise, and I'm signing up for that power bomb right now because I'd rather
y'all
do the power
subscribe
bomb
and get
than
us to 300. Y'all get us to 500, and Angel Camacho is committed to giving me the Camacho bomb, which is thank Vader bomb from a 460-pound man.
I mean,
so it's
I weigh $165 on a good day.
Yeah, basically, it's a Vader bomb.
Because Vader was about 460 pounds.
So
I think people love you, and they love seeing you live.
But they want to see me suffer,
taking bumps and stuff. I mean, I think they're just
the only thing I request, because Dave, and listen,
then do it. Subscribe and see what happens. See if you can catch me.
I love the fact that Dave is going to get hurt in all of these things, and I'm all for that. However, my concern, Amy, is as a good Christian, I want to make sure his safety is okay. And this man has been shot in the head. I don't know if taking a power bomb headshot to the ground is. Can we set up a pillow for his head?
Koloff's ass. I mean,
I missed that part of the
I'm just trying to protect your head area. That's all. I mean,
I was wondering, you said being a good Christian. I thought you were going to say you worried about his soul because he was going to get killed. He was going to die.
I gave up on that a long time ago.
But hey, we do want to also tell our fans out there, you guys, Cassidy Riley was fantastic. Like that, we have had the best guests, and we're just going to keep that momentum going because next week we'll have David Manning is going to come on and talk to us. And that show is on the 14th. Is that correct? That's a Thursday.
Correct.
It's a little bit different. It's not Tuesday, it's Thursday. So tell all your friends. But again, staying with that Iron Claw theme, we got the man who was there in the middle of it all. And
he wasn't just a referee, folks. He wasn't just a referee. He was Fritz's right-hand man. He was booking the territory. I mean, he was booking the house shows. They were on the road. They were on the road 7 nights a week. They were going. And David Manning was right-hand man. And recently, we never saw David Manning as holding the microphone doing interviews. But I recently saw an episode of. I watched an episode of David Crockett, the book with Conrad Thompson on Ad Free Shows.
Yep.
And they played it, and David Manning, they sent an interview with Harley Race, with David Manning holding it. And immediately I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, Harley Race was in Texas to defend the championship on the build to Starcade, because he said David Manning here at the Tarrant County Convention Center with Harley Race And Harley Race, and I knew immediately, and I went back and double checked it, that Harley Race was in town to defend the NWA title against Iceman King Parsons at that particular show. But I thought it was interesting because we would have never at World Class Fans saw David Manning interviewing the World Heavyweight Champion,
Right.
but it was broadcast on Crockett Television, and I thought that was so amazing. David Manning worked a program with Captain Frank Dusek. He was being bullied. He fought Frank Dusek. He had a program with Buddy Roberts. Buddy Roberts and him had an issue.
And let's not forget that he wore sweet ass 1970 style Indiana Hoosiers warm up pants. Instead of red and white, they were black and white striped, which
Black
was
and white Adidas.
Badass referee uniform for.
I tried to do that one time. The promoter told me not to do it again.
Oh.
Well, now they'd say quit making it about you, but David Manning gave no F's. And
well,
he
back
said,
then it
"Look
wasn't anything for the referees to wear something different. Even James Beard, when he appears on shows now, he doesn't wear the traditional black and white stripes. So,
well, unfortunately, I'm going to miss next week again because I'm going to be working. So I hate that. But I feel good that there's going to be plenty of conversation going on with you and David Manning. So I don't think I will be missed very much. But I will definitely be listening next week along with everyone else. So it should be good.
Well, I'm excited about it because I don't know if everybody knows, because I don't know if I've told you more than 100 times that David Manning is David. When I was going to World Class, I wanted to be David Manning. I knew I was too little to be a wrestler, but I wanted to be David Manning.
He wasn't too little to be David Manning.
David Manning wasn't a large man, but he didn't take any crap. And we always knew that if David Manning was in there, that the Von Erichs were going to get a fair shake. And if Bronco was in there, the Von Erichs were going to get screwed. And that's how we knew. That's how, I mean, you just knew by the referee assignment what to expect. And it was Bronco got the reputation of not being, he was old and he couldn't catch anything. And David Manning was on top of it. And I may do this as a bonus watch along. Mm-hmm. There's a David Von Erich challenged Ric Flair for the world title on Christmas night of 1983. And somebody put that match on Twitter this week. It was not the full match. It was just the highlights. Uh-huh. And at one point of the match, Ric Flair threw David Von Erich over the top rope, which was a disqualification. Mm-hmm. You couldn't throw the wrestler over top rope, and he threw him over top rope trying to get disqualified to save his title. Mm-hmm. And David Manning refused to disqualify Ric Flair. And as it went on and went on and went on, Flair was in the Iron Claw. He reached outside the ring and he got the microphone and busted David between the eyes with it. And
well, there's no need to do a watch along now. You just told us.
Oh no, watching it.
I think what Dave is saying.
There's no spoilers. There's no spoilers 40 years later.
That's true.
The cool thing about David Manning was he was almost, as a referee, he almost came across as part of ownership. Like what David Manning said went, and he could change his mind if he wanted to. Like Dave
and if
said,
David Manning would have been on the college football committee, Florida State probably would have got in.
And on that note, Justin, won't you take us home?
On that note,
our chat started again.
We've said it all. We've said enough, and I think we've said too much. So with that being said, we want to thank our guest, Cassidy. I mean, that was one of my favorite guests.
Thank you so much, Cassidy.
Yes, great time.
And thank you guys for coming along, all you guys in the chat and all you guys listening every week. We really appreciate it. And so for the First Lady of the Arn Anderson Fan Club, Miss Amy Vaughn, and for the man who counted Ric Flair's last match, we hope, Mr. Pondwater Dave. And my name is Justin Davis.
Time out.
Actually, we know. I saw some stuff this week that said he ain't wrestling for sure.
Yeah, well, time out. Imagine living in a world where you sign Ric Flair to a contract and Ric Flair's on your TV show and Ric Flair's given a microphone and he's told to go to the ring. And I'm just imagining that with Tony Khan being the wrestling fan that he is, probably told Rick, just go be here. Just go be Rick.
Right.
And he did.
So Rick goes to the ring and he does his Ric Flair things. And he says, and by the way, if you're between the ages of 18 and 28, no boyfriends, no husbands, come to my hotel room.
Mhm.
Like he said for the last 40 fucking years.
Oh,
whoop, whoop.
So
This
now
got
we
him-
live in a
this has
world.
got him fired up.
Now we live in a world where wrestling fans get triggered by that.
Yes.
Like Rick really believes at 74 years old that a woman 18 to 28 with no wife, with no boyfriend or husband's going to show up at his hotel room.
it
Hey
doesn't
guys,
matter. He's
but I got a
hey,
spoiler alert for y'all. Rick goes to bed early, so he's probably
You know
going to
what-
be awake to hear the door knock.
You
Well,
know what's
but-
amazing about it?
But
uh-oh.
at what point was hooking up? Because I'm pretty sure there's an app called Tinder that's sold for the sole purpose of hooking up.
I thought it was grind or whatever.
That's for the gay guys. Tinder's for the
My
straight.
bad.
guys.
My
But
bad.
what I'm saying is so if somebody did show up, I mean,
People are just stupid, Dave. We cannot.
I'll
So-
tell you.
so now they go to the edit suite
Yeah.
and they edit out Ric Flair's promo
Mhm.
where Ric Flair was probably told by Tony Khan to go be Ric Flair. Go be
And
Ric
then-
Flair.
And then they post that they had to edit Ric Flair's. You
So
know, then
Ric
they,
Flair
then
says
they
that there's four
posted that
people
they
that
have to.
he said there's 4 people in his career that he needs to mention, and they edited him where he only named 3 of them. But I
Well,
say all this to say that, and I'm gonna give, because y'all know I'm a Ric Flair apologist from way back. I love Ric Flair,
Mhm.
and I want to say this, and I'm gonna give him a piece of advice. Rick, if you want to get over with the AEW fans, do not invite women 18 to 28 to your hotel room, because that's bad. What I need you to do, though, is say the word fuck on national television, because that's okay. Then I want you to get a microphone and I want you to learn how to rap. And I want you to tell a wrestler's wife to blow you while you're rapping, while her husband's standing in the ring, because that's okay too.
Mhm.
These are the things that get you over now with the kids. So I just wanted you to know that these are the things that are acceptable. But doing what you've done for the last 45 years, it's made you the greatest of all time, is no longer accepted.
okay. Well, I'm glad you mentioned this because this is something I actually did want to bring up earlier when we were talking about the CM Punk stuff. And I meant to bring it up and I forgot. Wrestling fans, as smart as they think they are on the internet and on Twitter, and they know everything about wrestling, I could not believe the amount of people that thought that the Seth Rollins thing yelling at CM Punk at the end of Survivor Series was real.
Mhm.
I'm like, y'all have, if you think that's real, then you know nothing about wrestling. You think they're going to put the camera on Seth and have him do that if that's a not
And
a work?
Michael Cole's holding him back if he's really mad.
And everybody got on Twitter and bought it hook, line. Everyone got on Twitter and bought it hook, line, and sinker. And I compare that to this. Everyone flipping out about Rick saying that when it, like you said, if you know anything about Rick, he's been saying that it's just a part of the gimmick. No different than, jet flying, high fly, all that. It's a gimmick phrase.
Well, but
And for them to get mad
is an
about that
adult.
is-
I don't understand
it's
you know what I'm
just dumb.
saying?
I mean, it's
people are
cringe.
Stupid. People
It's
are
cringe.
dumb.
If something happened and I found myself back in the dating pool, my daughters are in their 30s,
Right.
or their early 30s. I mean, so my dating pool is not going to be, that's just me. It's not going to be the early 30s. But I mean, Rick's girlfriend is in her 50s, almost 60. I mean, it's just what he says, and he's been saying it for years. And
just now in the last 15 years, is he not serious?
and even if he is, but I mean,
Again,
if
he is a consenting adult, and 18 is consenting. I'm just like, people are like really weird. That's all I know to say. Is people are just They
Yeah,
want to
so
be upset to be upset. I mean,
look,
it's just the
so
most
am I
ridiculous.
wrong for thinking? Let's just say that an 18-year-old does show up knocking on his door. So Rick's wrong for saying it, but we're gonna overlook that. I mean, I ain't saying she's a gold digger.
Mm.
Well, all right.
Y'all let it go. I mean, God Almighty,
Yeah. Frozen that thing. Let it go.
let it go, let it go.
Dave's got
Don't be
grandkids. He
triggered
knows
so
that.
easily.
Well, and we hate to
Here
let you.
I am. I'm a virgin in my mom's basement,
Oh, well, we hate to let you go,
and I
but I
never
think we
liked
should
Ric
after
Flair
that
anyway.
song lyric. For these two slapdicks that you know who they are and you know who I am, and we're going to say we'll see you next week. Please take care of yourself and each other. So long, everyone.
Good night.